All right, welcome to All Politics Are Local, America's number one political hip hop talk show. And so we have the first Friday of the month, and we are introducing a new show we're going to talk about in just a second, and with Rahman Muhammad. And we're going to talk about all that in a few seconds. We're going to talk about pastrami. We're going to talk about politics. We're going to talk about all of that, and it's going to be fun. And it's going to be a fun show. But we got a packed show tonight because after we have our first show, and we'll talk about this extensively, Pastrami Over Politics with Rahman Muhammad. At 7 p.m., we're going to have Baruti Kafele, Principal Kafele, come back on the show with some back-to-school advice for students, parents, and educators. At 8 p.m., we're going to have JP Sloan speak on the new Newark chapter of Community Movement Builders. And finally, at 8:30, DJ Rhino in the State of Hip Hop. We'll be talking about 24 hours apiece. Hopefully, we'll have someone there to be able to show us some of what's going on. So if you don't know about 24 hours apiece, we're going to talk about it extensively. Hopefully, you'll get over there tonight, later tonight, or early tomorrow morning or afternoon, somewhere within those 24 hours. So thanks, and we're getting ready to get started. So first, this is the first Friday of the month. That means it is time for Pastrami Over Politics with Rahman Muhammad, Big Rock, and Al-Tariq Kenny. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Al-Tariq got to come on camera, man. You know, you got to get his butt on camera.
I am. Give me a couple of seconds.
Now, just give me give up.
But John, can we do this before we get started? Can Big Rock tell us how did you come up with pastrami over politics?
Okay.
Well, I thought it was important, man, based on the events of probably the last week, where folks was a little upset about a post that I made, where I, hosted, or I wouldn't even say host, welcome the customer into my business. And because he's the Republican candidate, folks wanted to kind of give me grief about doing that. And I thought it was important that people understand that not only as a business owner would I do that again, by the way, but I think it's important that everybody knows that regardless of that, if it wasn't my business, I think that we need to talk to the other side. I think a big part of a lot of the conditions that we in, the fact that we got less than 1% of the contracts in the state and in the county, is because we don't address both sides. And this whole argument about the less of evils, to me, is something that we've bought into for so many years. But the reality of the matter is we still voting for evil. And I think that we got to get away from this thought process.
And when you say that, you're talking about if 1%, if we got less than 0.1% of the contracts, you're like, what's good?
What's good, right? So when people tell you that, oh, it could be worse than less than 1%, less than 0.5%, it can get worse. The rationale, the thinking behind that, to me, is just crazy. And so, based on the fact that people wanted to give me some slack about it, I figured, why not have pastrami in politics from this point forward? If you run for office in the state of New Jersey, you're going to have to come through Big Rock's Deli. I don't care what you know what I'm saying? I don't care. I'm going to play up on it. You know what I'm saying? I don't care what your party affiliation is. You running for office, you running for local politics, you running for assembly to the Senate, you're going to have to come through and get that pastrami, and we're going to have some politics while we talk. You know what I'm saying? That's how it's going to be. And all sides are welcome, because we got to start engaging all sides. I just think it's important. I think we got to get away from this Nostradamus type of predictions that go on about what's going to happen. Every time I turn around, I hear the same thing. I've been doing politics for over 30 years of my life. I've been doing it since I was 22 years old. And I've been in a lot of back rooms. I've seen a lot of things. And believe me when I tell you, Democrats that we know and love been in the back rooms with some of these Republicans and made deals with some of these Republicans that you now say that you don't even want to talk to. They've been talking to them for your information. You just ain't seen it. You know what I'm saying? And so, we have to get away from this thinking that we can't engage the other side. And here's the other problem. This is what I said to somebody. At some point, it got to be a voice that speaks about what's going on, that people are going to be worried about speaking. And if it's my voice, then so be it. I think I put enough mileage in this state where if I say something, listen, that post took off, right? And people think I broke the internet. Good. You know what I'm saying? We just getting started with breaking the internet. So, Pastrami in Politics once a month here. Come on. Hopefully my man Al3 Kenny will join me. I know he a party guy, so we don't want to, get him in trouble.
You might have gotten him in trouble calling him a party guy.
Well,
no, he is not a party guy.
He's on the Democratic ticket, man. So he has to be, we got to respect that part. You know what I'm saying? He's a Democratic candidate for a surrogate. And listen, and he's one of the good guys. So
forgive me, when you said party guy, I thought you meant like in the streets. And I was
no, I don't want Jaron to whoop his behind.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not. Yeah. I'm not. No. I think, he's a Democratic candidate. And I think it's important that's why I asked him to, come on board. I think it's important. Like, Al-Tariq balances me. Like, if I get too extreme, Al-Tariq could turn around here and try to balance that.
Yes, brothers. Preach, brother. Preach.
Yeah.
Preach, brother.
Which is important, right? You need those type of friends, right? I don't want friends in my life that I can't disagree with. You know what I'm saying? If we can't disagree, then you can't be my friend because I'm not learning nothing from you. So I think it's important that if Al-Tariq thinking I'm being too extreme, even though I don't listen to him, I think though that, having that calm voice, you know what I'm saying, that's in your head saying, well, yeah, Rob, but here's the other side you got to think. And that's good that he's doing that. It reminds me that at least I got somebody talking like that, but I still got to go on my mission. You know what I'm saying? And once I'm on that mission, that's the mission I'm on. So
Pastrami Over Politics, the first guest that you had was the gubernatorial candidate, Citarelli, came in, the Republican candidate for governor. What'd you talk about?
So, what's crazy is that when he first came in, I wasn't really going to engage him. When they told me that he was coming, the friend, if you look at my page, there's a lot of friends of ours that's supporting Citarelli. My assumption is that they see the things that I'm saying about holding folks accountable, especially the Democratic Party, who we support all the time, holding them accountable, doing more for our community. And so my assumption is that those friends seen that and decide, you know what, hey, we need to visit Rock's Deli, right? What folks don't know is that they have been ordering all along from the deli because they have meetings in Newark. And so they've been ordering all along. And they called me up and said, hey, listen, Shirley wanted to come over to the deli. He wants some pastrami. And, would you greet him? And I said, why wouldn't I not? He's a customer like everybody else. Why would I not greet him? Yeah, he's welcome. He'll be accepted just like any other customer up in here. And so, because they had some time for lunch. So he came during lunchtime. And because, like I said, they've been already eating my pastrami. So he wanted to come eat them. They wanted to walk. It happened to be a black business. They want to use the opportunity to come. Listen, I have no problem. I told my wife, listen, you deal with the situation. It's more so, you are a soldier, you're a lieutenant colonel, you're an African-American female, you're a veteran-owned business. I think you'll have a better conversation with them than what I would. I don't want to make it an aggressive conversation. But what happened when he came in the store and my mother, who was in the back making her pies, when she found out, she started with him, she want going out, like she about to go out there, like be aggressive with him. And I'm like, Ma, hold up, calm down. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? Let him come in and, she like, no, I'm asking that, she want to ask her some stuff that she heard. And so she like pretty much darted from the kitchen and go out in the front. So I really had no choice but to come out there and like kind of stand between it to kind of calm that situation down.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
And what were some of the things she asked? And how did he respond?
Well, she was asking, it was really like a conspiracy theory. I don't want to say the person's name because I don't even want to give it airtime. It was a conspiracy theory from certain individuals that be posting on Facebook. And I tell mine, why do you listen to this craziness some of these people say? And you know what I'm saying? If you're going to ask them something real. Like, don't, you know what I'm saying, go out there with, you know what I'm saying, this conspiracy stuff that these folks just put out there in the air. Go out there with some and ask some questions. But you know, my wife took over the conversation pretty much at that point, and she started talking about small businesses, the trouble she's having with the business, things that we trying to do that we see we having difficult doing. So she spoke to them. I mean, they really had a great conversation. I'm gonna be honest with you. Both of them really, you know, she pretty much talked about, you know, things, you know, when it came to trying to get her married name on her license, how difficult it was. I mean, she started really talking about issues that impact her as a female or her as a business owner. And he was, you know, engaging with her. And it's nothing wrong with that, by the way. She didn't say, I'm voting for Shitterelli. She said, asking these questions. You know, why is it that we have this much? Why is this so difficult? Why can't we do this? Why, you know? And I think that we, you know, we should have those conversations. I pretty much stayed in the back and allowed for her to have it. I did get a chance, you know, after things kind of calmed down and my wife had finished with him. I talked to him about two issues that I thought was important. One was a driver's license bill that I had passed during the Christie's era that got pretty much tabled, that no one's moved on, which allows for people that come home to work off these fines and they driver's license. He did. This is what I'm trying to say about engaging the other side. He didn't even know that fines are assessed. Your license suspensions are assessed when you have charges. He thought that once you finish your time.
I don't understand. Like, when you can you explain this issue?
So people that come home,
important practical issue.
Yeah. So when people come home from doing time, inside of the criminal justice system, under the sentencing guidelines, there are things that impact your driver's license too, based on certain charges. And when you come home, even though you've done,
all right, you froze. All right, you froze.
I was worth for fines.
All right, you froze up.
Hello?
Yeah, you froze up. You were in the middle of talking about if you're incarcerated, and when you're incarcerated, it actually impacts your driver's license.
Yes, there are certain charges that impact your driver's license when you're sentenced. And so we've had people that come home that I've had individuals that come with upwards of $18,000 worth of fines based on their sentence. And so, yes, based on your driver's license. And this is part of the sentencing guidelines. So this is something that the judge just willy-dilly just gives out these sentencing. Part of the sentencing guidelines, certain charges, your driver's license is impacted based on those charges. And so when people come home from prison, they still have to deal with this driver's license. Like I was telling him, at minimum, when you're trying to seek out a job, you need a valid New Jersey driver's license. At minimum, people expect for you to have that. But if you make it difficult for them when they come home to get that driver's license, then there's no way possible that the chance for them getting a job is that much harder. And so when Christie was in office, I had put a bill, which was a bipartisan support, by the way. You know, when I went into the Senate to speak about this bill, the Republicans that was listening to me was like, hold on, wait a minute. I just had a guy that came to me, one of my constituents, and talked to me about this. I want to be a co-sponsor to this bill. So I had put a bill on the table that said that if you came home, that you a workforce program or they're trying to get a job, you would be able to work off the fines on your driver's license. You would get a driver's license. You would get your driver's license renewed as long as you're either going through a workforce program or you're volunteering for a community organization in your community to help you get away with these. And the bill was passed. It was passed. Christie conditionally vetoed it. He sent it to the Labor Department to ask them how could they implement. So he didn't veto the bill. He conditionally vetoed because he didn't understand the bill himself. And so he sent it to the Labor to ask them if they would come up with how this can be actually managed. And because it was the end of his term, nothing ever happened to it. So it's pretty much just been sitting out there. Now, this is a bill that got Republican and Democratic support. The other thing that I talked to him about was that we get what you call forfeiture funds in the state of New Jersey. The DOJ, the Department of Justice, and federal get forfeiture funds too. And federal, they you know, sometimes they get billions of dollars worth of forfeiture funds.
Right.
In the state of New Jersey, we get
this is really important because a lot of people do not know what forfeiture is or forfeiture funds are. Can you break that down?
Well, forfeiture funds are things that are assessed as a fine to you, rather it's through drug trade, criminal activities, even a business like big corporations get, based on certain rules or whatever they violate, they get fines that go into forfeiture funds. So in the state of New Jersey, they collect millions of dollars worth of forfeiture funds annually based on these things that occur. And so what I wanted to do was to put a bill across the table that allowed for 10% of forfeiture funds, since it's done through crime.
You're going out.
So that reentry programs can apply for that. You hear me? You hear me?
I can hear you now.
Y'all hear me?
We hear you now.
I wanted to set aside. Okay, you hear me?
Yes.
Y'all hear me? Okay. I wanted to set aside 10% so that we can get forfeited, so that reentry programs can apply for some of that money, so that we can have bona fide reentry programs within our community. That's not new tax dollars, because these politicians, as much as they talk about reentry, they're not going to put no money in behind it. They're never going to do that. You know what I'm saying? So but if we got this forfeiture money, which comes through crime, and you're claiming that you so much want to get people back into society when they come home, why we can't use some of that forfeiture money to assist them? And so I want to put a bill.
I was going to say the forfeiture money. When we come across the issue, it's usually like they confiscate cars and homes and money and in the war on drugs, forfeiture has been something that's been used quite a bit to get quite a bit of money off of that. That's the kind of stuff you're talking about?
Right.
Okay.
Right. That, in addition to, like I said, when they find corporations and when they take money, like if you do a big drug bust and they found $1 million, $2 million in a wall or whatever, you know what I'm saying, the raid and safe, whatever, that money goes into the forfeiture fund. And so that money is generally given as grants to police departments so that they can buy weapons that they never use, by the way. And what I'm saying to them, why we can't put 10% of that aside and use it for reentry programs so that we can keep people away from crime. So I talked to him about those two issues. He didn't even realize that people got driver's license suspensions based on sentencing guidelines. He didn't even know that.
And wow. And I didn't know, a lot of people probably don't know that. I had no idea that you can get, when you go to jail, you go out and you can't even drive. Because it seems like those are setups, because at the very least, they got you locked up. If you're out on parole, they got you locked up for driving without a license, right?
Right.
They got you for, you can't get access to jobs. You're still locked out. It makes you so more difficult. And why can't you drive a license? It doesn't even seem like a punishment that fits. Like, you don't have your license anymore based on, but
and the deal, and the deal is, Jonathan, they're not stopping driving, right? They're driving anyway. And like you said, all you're doing is putting yourself at more risk, and you putting the community at risk, because now we got unlicensed drivers on the road. Because the bottom line is, if you hungry and you trying to eat and you need a car to get somewhere, you need a job, you're going to get in that car whether you got a driver's license or not. Now we putting, a different situation on the brother or sister, where they either got to run away from the police, try to avoid the cop, whatever, because their license is invalid and they don't want to get back in trouble. And so to allow for them to work off their fines and their suspension, I think would be a great idea.
Right. And make it a low work off kind of thing, because the bottom line is a lot of these laws are made by people who will never have to face them. And never, or they don't even live in communities where these laws have impact. Because if they did, they would put a lot more money into reentry. They put a lot more, like if they knew that people would come out and live in their neighborhoods, then they would put a lot more money in making sure that they were okay.
And if I can just add, just for a moment, right? And y'all rolling and keep rolling, right? Why are we not using monies taken from where harm was done and reinvesting it into the communities where the harm was done as a part of the community's healing?
Right.
That's another dimension. That's
the point that I've been trying to make. You know what I'm saying? I've been actually on this thing for the last. I even went to Cory Booker, Senator Booker, and them about this. That you know what I'm saying? In the Department of Justice, they get billions of dollars a year. You know what I'm saying, based on forfeiture funds. This isn't new money. right? You know what I'm saying? This is what I mean by it's important to talk to everybody, right? This is the new money. So this is not even an argument that you are going to be increasing people's taxes or using taxpayer dollars to put into reentry programs, which a lot of politicians scared to do, by the way. You know what I'm saying? But if you could take money that's already derived from crime and turn around here and give it to stop people from getting into the criminal justice system, why not do that? And I'm not even asking for 100%. I'm saying put 10, 15% away.
Which is low,
away.
right?
Why can't we do that? Right.
Especially when the rest goes to police departments that use, as you said, for weapons that they either will never use or should never use.
Right. These are the weapons that they use, literally, Jonathan. Most of them they buy armored tanks, they buy stuff that generally just the police and community you're never going to use, unless there's some real major issue. You know what I'm saying? They you know, I know police departments that got money where they bought tanks. They've done stories on this, by the fact. You can do research on this, where they bought tanks and it's just been sitting in there collecting dust inside the police department. You know what I'm saying? And this money came from forfeiture fund. Why not put it to good use in the community?
A lot of it's military surplus, like something they don't sell to other countries. Right. Yumia Abu Jamal actually helped uncover a lot of that after the Ferguson stuff, when he started asking questions about why are these tanks on the streets in Ferguson? Where do they get this from? Well, so those programs started getting more publicity after that, after those questions started being asked, and people are like, "Yo, why do you need tanks?" And you just have these tanks just geared against Black people and within our community? Like what?
Right. So yeah. So I got a chance to talk to him about those two issues, which I thought was great. You know what I'm saying? And you never know what will happen in an election. And the reality of the matter is, if he won, and I would love to talk to Mickey Sherrill about it, to be honest with you. And tell her, but I can guarantee you she don't know that people get sentenced doing sentencing guidelines on their drivers. Like, I can guarantee you she have no idea.
Yeah, all of that.
No, we're going to talk to. I'm going to ask you about Mikey Sherrill in a minute. But I want to ask you a question about the Republican gubernatorial candidate, and you got a lot of pushback. You got a lot of flack on that because of his association with Trump, right? Like, I mean, I voted Republican twice in my life. I voted for Tom Kaine in 1988. And I voted for Lowell Weicker in Connecticut in '92. Both times I voted because they were literally the candidate that was more progressive. The original Tom Kaine did a lot of stuff on welfare reform, made it so people can go to college for free if you were on public assistance. And he did a lot in terms of education and raising teacher pay, all that other stuff, right? At Lowell Weicker in Connecticut, he was running against Joe Lieberman. At the time, Joe Lieberman was running as a Democrat. He was running to the right, far right of the Republican. And I'm like, if you're voting for the far right of the Republican, why am I voting for you, right? But it seems like Chitterelli's embraced Donald Trump, far right, white nationalist, someone who might attack the city in terms of if he followed Trump's immigration policies. We see what the Attorney General has done.
Retargeting Assata, I ain't gonna let that go.
Were any of these, like, when you get the pushback, how do you react to the obvious, right? Like, Trump's not Lowell Weicker, right? Trump is not Tom Kaine Jr. He's not one of those Republicans. He's somebody else, right? He's much more akin to white nationalism in what he's doing in DC, what he's threatened, like all the people he has working for him who have white nationalist tattoos, and the person who runs the Defense Department, right? Like Laura Loomer, who's there, like he's literally embraced himself with that. How does that square away? And you get these questions all along. They give you this pushback. How do you react to that pushback?
So here's the thing, right? Listen, I've never voted Republican in my life. You know what I'm saying? More than likely, I wrote in a candidate if I didn't like the Democratic choice. So I've never voted Republican. I think the only Republican presidential I thought about that I might support if he was able to run with the brother from Ohio. What was the former governor from Ohio? That I thought, like, you know, what was his name?
Blackwell.
No, it was a Republican governor from Ohio. But
Yeah.
anyway, I've never voted for a Republican, right? So here's the thing, right? I think that when you and I will hope, because I'm not voting for Shitterelli, right? And I will hope that people, I will hope that we don't shut down any conversation, even with extremists. I would hope that we understand that if we only allow for them to have extremists around them, and this is what I would say to my friends that are part of the Republican Party, right? Those that's on my page that are part of the Republican Party. I would say that if you're going to be a part of this system that you know is not conducive for our community, that at minimum, you need to be infiltrating the Republican Party to make sure we don't have a bunch of, don't take on the extreme ideas that they have, but to make sure that we have some people around them that maybe can talk them down from being that extreme. Like I said to you, Al Tariq, if I'm on the extreme side of things, Al Tariq is one of them people that's going to talk me down, right? But if I hung out with nothing but people that said, man, Rob, the F with that, you go blah, 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 then I would go even more extreme. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so I would hope that we get individuals that if you're going to be a part of that, that you go into it knowing that this is not best for your community, right? But that you also going to get up there and try to convince them why it's not best for the community. Just like I said, when I was talking to him about the driver's license thing, this is what is going on with the driver's license. He had no freaking idea that was going on with the driver. What's the crazy part about it, Jonathan? I told you that the bill that was passed got bipartisan support. He probably voted for the bill that I'm talking about. He just don't even remember it. You know what I'm saying? Because it was during the Christie era. He probably don't even remember that. So, I mean, I would hope that individuals that want to partake in this Republican Party, that they go into the party knowing that the party needs work. And that if we're going to be here, then we got to make the time that we have here meaningful, and they got to hear our issues. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, let me jump in also.
What's crazy about it, Jonathan, if you look, I had just made a post critical of Shitterelli's campaign probably a few days before he came into my deli. If you look on my Facebook page, I had made a post complaining that why are you going to meet with Nene Netanyahu? Why are you going over there meeting with Netanyahu? Why are you talking about Salah Shakur and talking about you going to support the police no matter? Why is that even a conversation? Like, why are you going there? You know what I'm saying? So I had already made a post critical. I'm like, what is this about? Why are you doing, like, you trying to play up to, like, you know what I'm saying? So it's clear to me though that if individual, but nobody responded to that post because that's not controversial. You know what I'm saying? So that post didn't get the attention that the post came where he came into my deli and he bought a sandwich. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? So no one complained. No one turned around and talked about that one. No one engaged that post. No one struck up a conversation about that. We want to strike up a conversation about a customer. Do you know what would have happened if I would have told that man he couldn't come in my business? It would have been a story on Fox News. You know, this is a business, folks. We don't, when a person come into the store, we don't ask them what their party is. We don't turn around and have a conversation about whether you are Republican or Democrat and you about to eat this pastrami. You know how many people order on Uber Eats and DoorDash that order through hotels? You don't think some of them Republicans, Jonathan?
Right. Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't, you know, when I make that sandwich, I'm not concerning myself with rather that's a Republican on the other side that just made this Uber Eats order or this DoorDash order. I'm happy that this person is keeping non-Newark residents from my neighborhood, because, you know, when people talk, they're crazy. Understand, I opened up a business in my neighborhood. I didn't go in nobody else's neighborhood. Those the streets I ran. You know what I'm saying? Why would I turn around here and stop that? I mean, I think in addition to, I'm sorry though, I'm at the belief now in my 57 years at this point, and because I see that we have made really no progress as it pertains to economics. And I'm talking about economics, y'all, because right now this is about economics for me. While we turn around here fighting for our people to get Section 8 and to remain on Section 8, they giving their people contracts so they never have to apply for Section 8.
Right.
And we're not saying anything about that. We keep on talking about Section 8. Oh, we got to get this person because they're going to help. I don't want my people on Section 8 no more. I don't want my people on public assistance no more. Why do we feel like we got to keep that type of generational poverty in our community? Man, I'll have this conversation all the time. You know what I'm saying? Why do people believe that we have to have I grew up impoverished, on food stamps, on welfare, barely eating meals, living in abandoned buildings with my whole family. Like, why do I have to continue that cycle of poverty? Why does that have to exist? It don't have to exist. And the only way it's going to not exist is if we engage all sides in the conversation. We are the only ethnic group that gives a party 90-some% of our support. But yet we're last in every damn thing in every category that exists out there. But yet this party, we still turn around here and give them over 90% our support. We can't, what they say, insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results. You have to begin to engage other people. When Chris Christie was the governor and I was having problems with the school board contract, you know who I went to for help? Steve Adebato. You know what Steve Adebato did? He got on the phone. He called Chris Christie, said, I need you to go meet with this young man. Chris Christie sent the chief of staff to my union office, and we turned around and they helped me get a contract with the school board, with the Newark Board of Education when it was under state control. Now, I didn't go out there and broadcast that and tell nobody, you know, blah, 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 that. And nor did they go out there and say, hey, give us credit for this, blah, 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 blah. But somebody had to communicate with them so that we can get a contract. So we have to engage the other side. We cannot keep on saying that we're only going to give 90% to one side and not have a conversation to even engage the other side to figure out, well, if they do win, can we at least work with you?
Right.
So let me jump in for a second, Rock. So I think, Rock, the biggest part is that a lot of the black Republicans that we're talking about are typically grifting. And so they really don't have a position to advance the cause of black and brown people. They really have an agenda to advance their own personal goals and their personal ambitions. And so, like, I think what people felt about Jack Chiarelli going into your restaurant, it was targeted because they know who you are. They know exactly how this particularly look, for them as a campaign, and you were targeted. And one is obviously your is economics. You have a business, you have a right to serve whomever come into your spot. And a lot of the critics never actually walked into your spot and actually ate a meal from your restaurant, right? So I get that part, right? But I think the other part of it is that a lot of the black Republicans that I'm talking about are not like Frederick Douglass Republicans. Like back in the days when Frederick Douglass was a Republican during a time of enslavement, where slave catchers came up north to take black people and bring them back south and put them in enslavement. He was one of the only Republicans, if not one of the few black Republicans, that challenged their own party to say, listen, I may be a member of the party, but the policies that you guys are advancing are in direct conflict with my people. And so I think that's the sort of black Republicans that you're talking about in terms of what is happening here in the city of Newark or state of New Jersey, that if you're going to be a black Republican, advance the cause of your people. And this is during a time where you don't have to be put in slavery, right? You actually got a computer. You actually have a voice. You can actually share your ideas to say, I'm going to be critical of the party, but also be directly as an advocate for the people that represent my issues and my cause. And so when you did have a conversation with Jack Chiarelli, you're supposed to have a conversation about forfeiture funds, just like they're supposed to have a conversation about forfeiture funds. Like when we had a conversation with Dale Caldwell, when he came into your restaurant. Dale Caldwell happens to be Lieutenant Governor.
Dale Caldwell was again? Tell us who Dale Caldwell is.
So Dale Caldwell is the lieutenant gubernatorial candidate for the Democratic Party. He is also the president of Centenary College. And so I just happen to have an opportunity.
Oh, well.
I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. So he's the president. I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Zahid, what did you say?
Zahid was trying to say something. I didn't hear Zahid.
Zahid, what did you say?
Yeah,
I just
I was saying.
Caldwell, you're fine. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's in South Jersey. I think in Hillsdale, New Jersey, might be. I'm not 100% certain. And so when he had a conversation, just like Rahman took an opportunity to have a conversation with Jack and his leadership, I had a conversation with Dale and talked about, about vending opportunities at the port and other places throughout the state that doesn't require bonding. and like how can we get how can we get vending opportunities for residents to do business on the port, and where we're looking at minority contracts that are not just simply for white women. And so when you get those opportunities, you have to advance the cause of your people, because you have to think about more than just how can I get a job or a contract during election season. It has to be bigger than just you.
So what you're saying, and because I don't know this to be true, because I don't know these people like personally like that, right? I mean,
Sure.
I like some of them. I've had a lot of really good conversation with some of the people who are now like very much helping the Republican Party. And do you think that they are having that conversation about advancing causes, advancing like things that within our community, or were you, like you were implying, you think it's just a paycheck?
No, I just think it's self-interest, because they haven't had that conversation when they started with this campaign with the Trump administration. And so even when the same people have been working on the Trump campaign during the Trump-Kamala election are the same people that take on the mantle with the Jack Chiarelli campaign. And when you ask them questions, well, what is it? How is his election are going to benefit people in the city of Newark, Black and brown people? There's no direct, conversation about how. There's no knowledge. There's no information. There's no, and I know the individuals who are having that sort of conversation. And so like, they would never have the wisdom to say, well, what about forfeiture funds? Like, how is that going to impact the people who have been directly impacted by mass incarceration? Or how do we increase the amount of Black vendors, either at the port in the state of New Jersey and the county of Essex, beyond just 1.4%? And so they just don't have the experience, the knowledge, and I don't think they have the willpower to do so.
Okay, so,
well, you know what? But I think it's deeper than that, though. I think that I'm gonna tell you something. I'm gonna tell you, we do ourselves a disservice if we ignore what is going on with the Democratic Party. And I think part of it is that we just have a lot of disgruntled Democrats, and especially African American Democrats, who just feel like, well, we still don't got nothing. Like every year, y'all come to us with this Nostradamus type of prediction rhetoric about what would happen if the other side come in. Even when you get there, we still experience these Nostradamus impacts in our community. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I just think that, I was telling this to Al Tariq, when, the thing that woke me up to understand that like something is seriously going on. I walked in my deli and seeing my 12-year-old godson, 13-year-old godson, watching Charles Kirk on my TV in the deli.
Wow.
And I said to, and this Charles Kirk wasn't on the TV. He went and looked for him on YouTube and was watching Charlie Kirk on the on TV in my deli. And I said, what are you doing? Why is you listening to him? And he was like, oh, he's funny. And I was like, what you mean he's funny? And I started explaining to him like the racist rhetoric from Charles Kirk, the things that he say that don't benefit the community. But he wasn't hearing none of that because he was just thinking about this guy is funny. Like, like he's some comedian. Like he's not no comedian, but they are reaching our younger generation. And if the Democratic Party don't wake up, if the Democratic Party don't wake up and understand that, I don't know, whatever they're doing to reach this new generation, that how they're reaching them is by saying, though, look, you're not better off either. Like you keep on saying, like, and as an African American, you would have to agree with them. You know what I'm saying? Like, all they got, if you want to tell them, right, listen, I tell people this all the time because I know Joe and them think that I'm hating them now. And that's, listen, let me tell y'all something. I was a big part of Joe D campaign and getting elected. Not no little door knocking person. I used to meet with Joe D I went against my boss to support Joe D when he ran for county exec. I used to meet with Joe at Tops Diner.
Oh, just when it gets good, it gets cut out again. I think it's a conspiracy.
Diner. You hear me?
I just heard you used to meet with Joe D at Tops Diner.
I used to meet on Wednesday. Me and Joe used to meet at 8:00 on Tops Diner and help him put together a labor strategy because I wanted Joe to be the county exec. And we should meet at Tops Diner at 8:00 up until his election. We would meet for breakfast there every day. Joe had asked me to support him. Sharp James came to me. Sharp James and Calvin West had came to me and asked me to. This was in 2000. This was 2002. This
Okay.
was in 2002. This was after the Jim McGreevey race, and
Is this
they
his
felt
first campaign? This was his first campaign?
This was his campaign when he was running against Tom Giblin for county exec. And what he felt was that if Tom Giblin had got the union support, because we just came off the McGreevey victory, that if we came out and endorsed Tom Giblin early, then every other union would follow suit with us. And they would so I went against my boss, who was Tom Giblin's friend. You know what I'm saying? I went against my boss to help Joe get elected. So I have no personal issues with Joe. And Joe, I tell people all the time, as far as a county exec, as far as infrastructure and the things that he should do as a county exec, I think he's done a great job. I have no issue with that. You know what I'm saying? And our relationship has been great over the years. There's never been anything that I went to him and asked him for that he has not given me. So, or helped me with. So it's not that I can just be silent and not say anything, and I would be okay, right? But I can't take that position. Like, you can't show me a disparity. I was on the disparity study when Joe D got elected. He created a disparity committee when he got elected, and he put me on that disparity committee. And during the disparity study, when Jim Treffinger, the Republican county exec, was the county exec, African Americans had 2.4% of the contracts in the county. 2.4% of the contracts.
And this was
we complained. That was in 2002. And we complained about having 2.4%. And Joe and them had this committee. We all agreed that this was thing we had to do better. And you mean to tell me 20 years later that African Americans is less than 0.5%? And I'm not supposed to say anything about this. Ain't a personal thing. I like them personally. I would hope we still cool. Listen, if I can't have a friendship where I disagree with you and we still friends, I don't want that friendship anyway. So I would hope that we still cool. But if we not, then it is what it is. But I am not going to be silent to the fact that we started something saying that we're supposed to improve this, but yet we're going backwards. I don't agree with that. And I cannot turn around with my voice and stay silent about that, folks. And if that makes me a one-issue person and, oh, Rock, you just harping on this thing, then so be it. So be it. Because we can't keep allowing this to happen.
This goes all the way back to 2002 or whenever that campaign was. Can you take us back there and just tell us, like, when you got onto the campaign, what was the hope that you had then about what would happen with Essex County? And because you had that disparity study back then, was there anything in place or any policy in place? Like, what were some of those conversations about right then?
Well, we had a whole disparity committee. It's the point that I'm trying to. We came out with a whole policy platform that should be implemented so we can increase that. There was a disparity. There was Reverend Jackson on this committee. There was Reuben Johnson on the committee. You had a lot of people prominent that was on this committee, and we submitted this paper to them, these policy suggestions that we had to for them to implement in the county. And so for us not to 20 years, and listen, I have not paid attention to it. I've not asked for they have not denied me a contract. I've never asked them for a contract. So they have not denied me a contract. You know what I'm saying, John? So there's no reason for me to be upset. I've never put in for a contract. I never asked for a contract. They never turned me down for a contract. So I've really never paid attention to rather it increased from 2.4%. But when you see a disparity study that comes out 20 years later and you look at it and it shows that we 0.33%, I'm sorry, folks, that's a slap in our face. And if we don't take that as insulting and say, bro, wake up, what is up with this? And put it back at them to question, why does it look like this? Then something is wrong with us. And the guy who helped him get there, which I did help him get there, at minimum need to be the one that speak out. And I was on the disparity group. So at minimum, I should be one of the ones that speak out about it. And I am going to speak out about it. And this is why I'm on this mission. Like, we can no longer sit around and just keep on going along just to get along. We have to do something where we ensure that we have our fair share. And if it means that we are calling out our friends, then so be it. We should call them out. And if they upset that we call them out, then then they just have to deal with it. But we can't keep on living thinking that we're going to be all right And we can't get we get all these buildings named after African Americans. We get parks named after African Americans. We get statues built in the honor of African Americans, but we can't get the contract to build a damn statue or the building or clean the park. Nah, we can't. Nah, I'm not. Listen, I'm not standing around allowing that to happen no more without saying nothing. I'm sorry, it's not gonna happen. Not for me. I'm not. Everybody else can ignore it and pretend like it don't exist. Rahman Muhammad is not going to do it. And if they don't like it, then so be it. Then they just don't have to like it. I don't hang out with them anyway, so it don't matter to me.
Here's the thing: we are 36% of the population of Essex County. Why are we not 36% of Essex County business contracts? That's what we. That's how far we got to go. That's ridiculous. Ridiculous.
But beyond it being ridiculous, I be telling people this all the time. You can't name me one state, one city, one municipality, one county, one village in this country. In this country, you can't name me one hut in this country where white people are the majority and black people or minorities get all the business. You can't name nowhere that in this country. Only in our communities do that exist. And how is that existing if we got this party who say they for us? I don't want us to keep on fighting for Section 8 and welfare and these programs that they could just take away from us at any time. I want to make our people self-sufficient. I didn't open up Big Rock's Deli for me and my wife. Me and my wife have worked long enough to retire. We got plenty of checks coming to us when it's time for us to retire. I promise you that. When I make retirement age, we good. Me and my wife is good. That's not why I opened Big Rock's Deli. I opened it up because I'm like, listen, I got to be able to leave my kids, my grandkids, something to give them a head start, just like everybody else do, so that they don't have this dependency that I grew up with. And if we don't change the process and make sure that the process is fair for them, then they're going to keep being in the situation that we've been in. And that's not right, man. It's just not right. It's not right. And I don't want that to happen for our people, man.
Now, one of the things that the city of Newark did is that they literally trained people to be able to get contracts. It seems like in Newark, there was a whole education process about how to get contracts, how to form an LLC, how to do all of that groundwork. And it seems, and correct me if I'm wrong, it seems like there are a lot of people who benefited from the business education that they got from the men's meetings, from the things that were set up within the city. Is that something, do you think my characterization of that is correct? Because one of your other hats, one of your other jobs is deputy mayor. You're deputy mayor for economic development in the city of Newark. Was my characterization of that correct? And is it, do you think that something like that simply just needs to happen on a county level? Is it because there just weren't people to fulfill those contracts as it seemed to be in Newark, right? Which is why there had to be such a concerted effort to train people in how to open businesses to begin with. Is my characterization of that incorrect?
And I know, Rock, you might chime in. I mean, the question, but the county does have a training. One of the bigger, I know Port Authority does have a training because my brother does the training for the minority businesses. But you can't hear? Can you hear me?
Yes.
He's at,
you can,
but
I think, and I will even go back to former councilwoman when Carol Clark was a councilwoman. That was one of her biggest challenges, is that because as stated earlier, where Zahid gave the numbers, that minorities do not get the contract, and the bigger issues, and this is prior to me getting elected in 2008, was that minorities did not meet the criteria, the dollar amount. So they begin breaking those numbers down where they can come in, minorities can come in and do joint, produce themselves as a joint for these contracts. but still it's the training, and or when you have a lot of, in the case Rock is he's a small business, that when you do the paperwork, a lot of what was found as a lot of people don't know how to do the paperwork or have the time to do the paperwork because it could be very cumbersome.
So is that what you found in Newark? There weren't a lot of us with contracts until there was a concerted effort to grow it, right, through the men's meeting. Do you think that is accurate, that Newark literally grew people into contracts? And is that something that the county would have to do?
Well, I think the mayor has done a great job since, from the first time the mayor, I remember our first directors meeting, one of the mayor's biggest pet peeves things that he was focused on was procuring more business from minorities within the city of Newark. And that was a big focus of his. At the time when we came in, it was 3%. I don't know what it is now, but I know it's higher than 3%. And this is something that he always focuses on trying to make sure that we get our fair share of the contracts that go into the city. The county has to do that too, but there has to be an effort from the leadership in the county to ensure that that's going to, if it's not a priority. And listen, I'm gonna be honest with y'all, Joe D probably don't even know that it went down that low. I'm gonna be real with you. It's probably not even. I'm not telling you that there was this conspiracy that Joe said. Oh, about it's that it wasn't a priority, folks. It wasn't a priority to make sure that it would be different. You know what I'm saying? And the people that we put on that commission, or the freeholders in the past, then also make sure that it would be different. So it ain't just, he don't just take the weight for it. The folks that was sitting on that freeholder board also take some heat for that not occurring and us going in reverse instead of us moving forward. I don't think it was a priority. And when things don't become a priority, you begin to do what you normally begin to do. The reason why we have so much problems with getting minorities on construction sites is because most construction companies, developers, already have people that they work with. So when they come into your community, they want to build, they've already built with these other people that they used to building with. So you come and tell them, no, well, wait a minute, you got to put this one in there. You got to put, now they don't know because they got deadlines to meet, they got budgets to meet, and they don't know how that's going to affect us. So they want to revert back to what they used to doing because that's the safe bet. You know what I'm saying?
So I want to,
if you don't, go ahead.
No, so I want to actually add my part to it because as a constitutional in the county, my job is obviously, the work that we do on the just from the organization standpoint. But when there was opportunities like from a vendor contracts, whether it was like how do we needed to find people who simply do our website to purchase goods and services. One of the things I did was just put it into the hemisphere of people, put it in a public hemisphere where people that I know could be attracted to those sort of opportunities. And obviously they got to go through the fair process of procurement, but it was to make sure that each constitutional and the administration have to make a concerted effort to ensure that you open up the bandwidth to make sure that more people are able to bid on opportunities that typically they don't bid in the past. And I think Rahaman was actually going in a direction I think is important, is that a lot of times it's easy to just renew a contract. You have a contract, you just simply renew, rather than seek out new opportunities. And then if you're a minority contract, it's an ROI issue. Like if I do 200 pages of data and information, will I get a return on the investment of my time and paperwork that I submitted? And we saw it happen with UEZ. A lot of minorities were in those particular zones, but they submit all this volume of paper, but not guaranteed to get the sort of tax benefits that it came with being in the UEZ zone. And sometimes it comes that way as well. And I think what the city of Newark has done is a great job is walking people through that process.
When you say UEZ zone, can you just break that down? Like, what do you mean by that?
Got it. So UEZ zones from 1994 under Bill Clinton, where it was urban enterprise zones, where they would target minority communities, where they would give a number of incentives, whether those incentives was tax incentives, either some financial funding, try to figure out how to be able to grow more minority businesses or small businesses in in that area. And to my brother Zaid, there was a book that came out a few years ago called How Harlem is an Undeveloped Country, and it talked about the power and the negative impact of UEZ zones and how it negatively impacted, small businesses and urban and locally grown businesses. But the point I was trying to make is that the city of Newark has done a great job walking people through that process. Is it identifying people, then making department heads engage with them, and then putting in contact with what we should do on a county level is the procurement office say, here's the process. Let's walk you through the process, and we'll identify people to help work with you to ensure that at least you get into a process of getting vendor opportunities. And I think what Rahaman was saying about is the easiest thing to do is just renew an old contract that's existing because they already have a footprint and they already have a time of service. But I think that what Rock is saying is spot on. We have to make sure that the umbrella increases, because no way in the world, because I'm looking at the report right now in 2002 to 2004, where the numbers decrease from the time that Rahaman served on that board more than 20 years ago. There's no way in the world it should decrease, and it just really takes a power of will, and that's just kind of what happened in the last 20 years.
But that even goes back to, well, Jonathan, let me just say something. It goes back to even, in Atlanta, or what happened in Harlem, where the mayor of Atlanta stuck out when they did the new airport. I'm going to make a lot of Black millionaires. Well, he looked at that and said, I'm going to, Bill. He was from the leadership. He was purpose that I'm going to go out and show my community how to. Thus, what Mayor Baraka did, it happened in Harlem. So it's not new, but it's what the leadership is doing. That when you know that these big projects are coming, what am I doing to prepare my community that they will be able to benefit what's coming to their community?
Oh, that's great. We only have 2 minutes left, and we have our next guest about to come up. But on that, and it's been a great conversation. But did the Democratic nominee come too?
Yeah. So the
Oh, you gonna answer for me for Big Rock's?
No, I was gonna say the Rock. I was saying, did the Democrat come to Rocks? That's what I was just getting ready to finish the sentence. That's what you was asking.
No. I mean,
no, sir.
Tariq was about to answer for me. No, the Democratic nominee didn't come. The team did, and the lieutenant governor candidate came. Which they was welcome, man, and they came, and a whole lot of them came. Like there was a group of them that came in and engaged with customers and they talked with them, which is still good, by the way. Listen, I'm not saying she got to come to my restaurant. I don't want nobody to think I'm that selfish. That's not, you know what I'm saying? Or that petty. Like I don't want nobody to think that that's where I'm at. Like sometimes these people take a conversation way too to the left.
Rock, where you located? Rock, where you located? Where you located, Rahaman?
16 Urban Turner Boulevard. Everybody know that. Newark, New Jersey. I'm just saying that at the end of the day, folks, that we got to be more open to engage in both sides of a conversation. Even if we despise what the other side is doing, we still have to be engaged into another conversation. This is another little history lesson for you. I was telling Alice when me and Steve Adebayo, when we went through the whole Daddy's Care thing, like it was a war during that time because he didn't understand how did the city turn against him during that school board election. And that was a big reason why that occurred, right? And I remember when him reaching out to me in 2007 or 2008 it was, that he reached out to me after the campaign. And I questioned him when I went to go meet with him, like, why is you, like, me and you have nothing in common. Like, I don't even understand why you want to meet with me. Like, what's the point? And he said to me, you never cut off half your information. You know what I'm saying? You speak to everybody. You know what I'm saying? And he woke me up to it, right? Because I would have never reached out to him. You know what I'm saying? That's right. The crazy part, right? My mentality, I would have never reached out to him. But the fact that he did, and when I went and met with him, and me and him built a great relationship and a great friendship, you know what I'm saying, after that. But it was all because he reached out and him showing me, like, listen, man, you have to engage everybody. You just can't turn around here and engage those who you agree with. You also have to engage those who you disagree with. And that's important. And I just think that we all have to do that no matter what. And if you take some heat, so what? Who cares, man? I'm 57. What they going to do? Kill me? Shit, I'm dying already.
And Rahaman, I apologize. I'm late. But I do want to know, because I know when I seen the article and I was like, wow, this is great. And what's going on? Because we've been saying that the campaign should have started right after the primaries finished. So my question was, and you may have answered it, was everybody invited to come?
Invited to come where?
To your restaurant.
I didn't invite Shitterelli.
They just came.
They
and
sent
so
them there. They sent them there. His team sent them there. I didn't invite Shitterelli to. I don't have Shitterelli number. I don't know that man. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I've met him in passing, you know what I'm saying, at the League of Municipalities, but I don't know Shitterelli personally. I didn't invite him anywhere. His team sent them because, you know, they saw me, you know, making statements online, and they wanted to really. I'm gonna be real with you. And I tell people all that if they sent them to get attention, and for it to be and get y'all fell right into it, like it was an ingenious move.
Now I know Donna and Ed always, you know, hit questions at the end of time. Like they know it's time. They know I'm trying to do it. But they just jump in questions anyway, right?
But we can continue next month.
You're not here.
I was just waiting. Really, I was waiting because I wanted to hear from both Rock and Al Tariq. But I really want to know what does Rock and Al Tariq have that we can be looking forward to in the coming months. I want them to tell me because I know these guys can bring it. So
and you didn't ask them like 5 minutes ago.
And Rock, just to let you and Al Tariq know, y'all have one more meeting, one more show before people can register to vote. So I hope we're going to continue this voting conversation.
Oh, we definitely, but I just don't want to stay on jury. I think we got some national issues too we need to discuss and give our opinions about, man. I think we need to go a little broader than just Jersey. All politics are local, but we need to talk about other things that's going on in this country too. And so, you know what I'm saying? And in addition to what's going on in our communities, right? I don't just want to focus on politics. I want to talk about the things that's happening in our community. The fact that, you know, we need to get people to step up more, you know what I'm saying, in these communities. You know what I'm saying? So I hope that Al would come on with me and we talk about way more than just politics and local politics, but we also talk. I don't want to make this selfish about me. You know what I'm saying? I will say that.
I will say that we could always talk at 16 Urban Turner Boulevard at Big Rock Deli. Make sure you come.
So they don't have to wait till the first of the month. Okay. They don't have to wait till the first Friday. They don't have to wait till the first Friday.
Right.
Go to get a turkey pastrami sandwich.
I just want a free sandwich. That's all, folks.
But if Principal Kafele is on here, I gotta get off this. I'll get off this television, get off this microphone because he needs to talk and I need to step away. But I don't like that T-shirt he got on, so I don't know what's going on with that. It says Hampton on it.
I had anticipated
supposed to go out with a good request.
You know, that's where the daughter went.
Okay.
All my money went for 4 years.
I got you, brother.
Before Principal Kafele starts and Rock and Al Tariq, before y'all, the first show, what do you listen to and what will you be listening to as you prepare for the first Friday of each month to come on and talk to the All Politics of Local community? What hip hop artist, individual or group that inspires you to do the work that you do in the community?
Well, I got high blood pressure, so I'm listening to R&B, man. Some smooth jazz. I ain't listening to that.
My politics should say Talib Kweli, but my heart says Jay-Z. I'm sorry.
Hey, before y'all go, hey Rock, when are you in the restaurant? Because I want to come down when you're there.
I'm usually there after work, 5 o'clock. You know what I'm saying? I'm generally there.
What about on the weekends?
Yeah, I'm there every day, Saturday and Sundays on the weekend. You know, the deli is my other wife, so that's my mistress.
Yeah.
So I'm there.
Second.
I'll be down there soon.
All right.
All right, take care.
Let me recommend to you Kendrick Lamar Luther. That's soothing. You can look to his Luther track, okay?
All right. Well,
And brother Zay, there was a Harlem ain't nothing but a third world country. That's the name of the book that I was talking about.
Harlem, the Black Democratic Party in New York City is a trip.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And thank you.
We got some problems in New York.
We are.
Now Zaid's starting another topic.
We are very, very, very happy to have you here and for finishing up this first great show. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks
Take care. Bye-bye.
for coming on. Appreciate you lots, man. And look, I'm really looking forward to the conversations.
Yes, sir. Bye-bye.
Okay, peace. All right, peace.
All right, y'all.
All right, peace. Principal, well, first, that was a great segment, and I'm looking forward to Pastrami Over Politics every single week. Definitely looking forward to it.
Rick, you staying with us?
You can. Oh, you're frozen.
He's frozen.
He frozen, okay.
Because we're all you got a lot of fans, Principal Kafele, and
As he should.
As you should, right? We're honored to have you. You're one of the best educators in the United States. You train educators. You are award-winning principal. You've gone through battles for our people, for your students. When any time that a controversy comes up, when the principal has not done something that they need to do in terms of standing up, and I'm trying to figure out why is the school the way it is, I think about you. And what you're saying is it starts and ends with the principal, and the principal is a leader. They are a community leader. So that just even hearing you, right? You have a broadcast every Saturday, and it's been going on every Saturday.
77 straight Saturdays.
279, 280 tomorrow.
My bad. That's like us in the street, 155 straight weeks. He just like that.
Yeah,
and it's
love that.
Right, and it's an education, right? It's a full education on how to teach. It's a principals, right? It's for assistant principals and principals, right? And new principals, because anybody who's an educator, even teachers, it's helpful for me. Anybody who's an educator should be listening to you at 11 a.m. on Saturday, because they will learn about the education process. They will have more hope in what they can do individually in the education process as well. So it is an honor to have you here, man. It is. Here. You are.
I'm here every Friday anyway, so I'm just just on the camera, but I'm here always.
Yeah.
And you are an author of well over 20 books.
Really appreciate that, beloved.
Yeah.
How many books? How many books, Principal Kafele?
Oh, you said the books 14. 15, but one I haven't submitted to my publisher yet. I've been kind of sitting on it, but but 14 published.
So 280 Saturdays tomorrow and almost 15 books.
Yeah, 280, and as I always say, consecutively. We haven't missed a Saturday since we started the first Saturday in May 2020.
Wow.
Yeah. I check in periodically, and I ain't been in the classroom and I train teachers on the street. That's the best.
And how transferable is that the Saturday lesson? Can you take those skills into the corp? And how transferable is the information?
I'm trying to figure it out beyond us being here. We got a lot of faithful people that come on, have been rocking with us since the beginning. And then, as you go through each year and new people come into administration, you got people that get turned on to it, whether it be them hearing me somewhere or just word of mouth. So it's a lot of people who have benefited, in terms of just answering the question directly. The volume, it's a huge volume of people that either write me via email or inboxes and social media, or just stop me somewhere and say to me, and I mean, this is like every day. I am where I am today as a principal, as an assistant principal, because of your Saturday Academy, or because of your books. How recent did I hear that? Yesterday, right? When I was in California, right? So no matter where I go, there are people who, they go to grad school, they go to various other trainings, but there's something about this platform. There's something about my books, and that's not to say that my platform is better than the next person's platform. I'm just telling you what people tell me, that they have benefited immeasurably from the content that we deliver. Because like in terms of the people I bring on, these are top-notch educators all over the country, because I have access to them. So these are top-notch people. But Jonathan is in that category, right? I mean, and I don't have to preach that sermon. You all on here know that. The folks, whoever is on here that may not be familiar with Jonathan Austin, then, you know, when we talk about what you do in the classroom, what you do as far as debating, you know, you're top notch. And that's why I saw it not robbery, as they might say, to bring you on, Jonathan, on a program that's geared towards leaders, although you're not in an administrative leadership position, but you are a leader. So when I say top notch, certainly you, Jonathan, you're in that category.
Always an honor, man. Like every time you say that, thank you. And I appreciate that. I appreciate it very humbly.
And I appreciate what you contributed to the
together here.
Say that again, Zai.
I always wanted you two to be, to get you two together here in this space.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You deserve each other for real.
Yeah.
So it's the new school year. It is September. Kids are coming back.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to parents?
Yeah.
Like,
you know,
what should they look out for?
That's a whole day long seminar in terms of what advice to give them. Because, you know, before I even answer the question, let me say this to you. I think back on when I was a 5th grade teacher at Ashland School, which was renamed at the time John Howard Elementary, the superintendent at that time. And I didn't know that I wanted to be a principal yet, but I had leadership qualities. So I brought the 5th grade team together and I said, you know, we're spinning our wheels if we're telling parents that we need them to do this and do that on an individual basis, right? Because we're not going to talk to them all on an individual basis. I said, what if we create workshops, incentivize parents being there at these workshops, and we literally teach the parents what it is they need to know relative to the content areas we teach. So for those of you that don't know this, back in those days under that particular superintendent, it was his thinking that as elementary teachers, we shouldn't necessarily be teaching every subject because we're not strong at every subject. Nobody is strong at every subject, right? So he said, let's do something different. Let's have the elementary teachers, like, as in the secondary world, let's have them teach what they're strongest at, what they're most passionate at. So for me, it was a no-brainer. Let me be a social studies teacher, right? And a little bit of language arts. So meaning with my homeroom. So now I taught social studies all day, but I did it the same way Bashir does it now, you know, the same exact way. So I taught social studies, but then I said, I need that reinforcement at home. My language arts teammate needed that reinforcement at home, math, science, etc. So we brought them together, the parents, large numbers, standing room only, and we're literally teaching them what their roles are at home as it relates to the content that we were teaching. Not just make sure your child is doing your homework, make sure your child is reading, make sure that the television is off. Now that's the stuff that we all give them. But what's the specificity that a parent can learn so that I can engage my youngster better because I'm that much more informed of what the teacher expects of my child? Because for the most part, a parent is not going to really be that level of informed of exactly what I want as teacher because we're not having that conversation on a regular basis. So if I can incentivize you coming in, such as the homeroom with the most parents, and we give them this or give them that, then I got competition, and now the children are pushing for their parents to come out, and now we're spending about 2 hours teaching, engaging, interacting on content, and that worked for us. It worked across the board. So when I became a principal, I didn't shy away from what I was doing as an elementary teacher. We went on and implemented the same thing. It was a lot more challenging because everybody doesn't have the same level of ownership that I had with it, but we did it. And then once I became a high school principal, we continued to do that.
That's actually wow, because it goes to the heart of where the problem is.
Yeah.
As in, there are a lot of parents who want to help their kids in ways, but they don't know what they don't know.
That's right.
And especially the way we're teaching it. So you're literally talking about having those basic, it seems like in every discipline, there's some foundational things that you need to know for that year.
Yeah.
They're foundational concepts. Is what you did teaching the foundational concepts so that, like, the foundational concepts in critical reading.
That's
And
right.
so you taught parents how to critically read certain things or what you'd be looking for, so that when the kid is home, they get it. They get reinforced. So the kid and the parent have learned. And so the parent can ask their kid questions in ways they couldn't before.
That's right. You think like for example, and absolutely, by the way, when my children were coming home from school, my biologicals here at the house, we got new math, right? At that time, that's what they would call new math. What do I know about new math? The answer is nothing, right? So how do I help them with something that I do not understand as a grown man who happens to be a principal? I don't know that. But if I had somebody who could teach me the foundations, as you just said, not all the specificity, right? But the foundation, so that I can speak intelligently in my own house to my own children, then there's a higher probability that I can be an asset to them doing their work at home. So you think about just the multiplicity of parents out here who are well-intentioned. They want the best for their children, but I may not have the tools. I may not have what I need in order to have an intelligent conversation with my child about the content that my child is struggling with at home. So that's the void that we attempted to fill when we started bringing the parents in the evening to the school to talk about those things.
And Principal Kafele, Superintendent Leon was on last week.
I watched the whole thing.
You was with us. I was going to ask him a question I'm asking you now. When I was in high school or in grammar school, and mostly all of the communities had the adult education program that was held in the evening. And I know you were at the vocational school, generally has the program in Newark, Essex County, but only school system is the South Orange Maplewood has seemed to be the only community that has allowed their evening school to continue. Is that not something as an educator in leadership that you would think that more communities would reinstate the adult education night school?
Yeah, I mean, it's necessary. I think one of the things that they would probably say is an impediment is the funding. And under this administration, that's a major issue with a whole lot of things. It's impacting everybody. It's impacting me, right? So when you think about implementing those extra programs in addition to what the children have, that's probably the first the first obstacle that they're going to have. Can we afford it? Right? Because if it's there, then I'm sure that we can get people to come out.
So, and that would be the next question. I'm sorry, I was going to ask you. Go ahead. I was going to ask you about, and I know most people said our community has been through harder times like this, but when you're facing a federal government that we're facing right now, how do you keep educators inspired?
A lot of them are not inspired, right? It's see one of the things I talk about all the time. Being in the position I'm in, doing the kind of work I do, I get to see things that the average person will never see in their lifetime as it relates to school. I'm in schools all over America. I'm in schools that are in right-wing communities. I'm in schools that are in left-wing communities. I'm in schools that are in all sorts of different communities, races, ethnicities, cultures. I get to see it all across the board. And one of the commonalities that I see is that there's a lot of uninspired people in classrooms. The month of August, just to give you a backdrop, the month of August is the month that I spend doing convocations, right? Something that I'm not necessarily excited about in terms of the work, but because I'm a speaker, that's the kind of work that I do in August. So it's a big convocation. It's a big rah-rah event. A lot of music, a lot of partying. There's also some serious messages, but I'm there to deliver an inspiring message. So, and when they invite me, and we're talking every day in August. So when they invite me, that's the language they use. Just give them something inspiring, give them something empowering, give them something that they could hold on to for a while. But so I do it, but I know that whatever that message is, it'll probably last in terms of its impact for a day or two.
Wow.
Because the students are going to come back to school in like 2 days typically, when you have the convocation, like you all just had one in Newark recently. So
Right.
at the Prudential Center, I'm sure everybody was hyped and all that kind of stuff with all the things. I saw some of the videos on Instagram with the 25-year teachers and 30-year and all that kind of stuff that comes along with a convocation. But a couple of days later, Jalil and Jamila are coming back to school. Right. And then all that hype, all that motivational message, all that just being together, all that dancing to that song, Boots on the Ground, because I've heard that song too many times in August now. It's just too much. Right. And folks with their fans. Now it's time for the youngsters to come back to school. And all that motivational stuff that happened at the convocation, it's not even on the radar anymore. Right. Now, what are we going to do? And there's a lot of folks, just based on my experience, not research, just my experience of being in these schools, it's a lot of folks who don't have the fire that they once had, who do not have the passion that they once had, because the stuff is coming from all directions. And one of them, given the topic, the title of this of your platform, the federal government, right? That's impacting everybody on so many different levels. Right. So it's hard, particularly like let me give you this. When I'm in a red state, and I may have said this last time I was here, but it's worth saying again. When I'm in a red state, and I'm in all because I'm in 49 states. I'm just waiting for Wyoming to give me a call. Right. So when I'm in a red state, we do a Zoom call before I go, because we want to go over what I'm going to present when I'm doing a seminar, a workshop, or a keynote, whatever it is. But the commonality with all of them, when it's a red state, is Principal Kafele, could you make sure you do not mention the word equity, right? In fact, typically it's DEI. Don't mention diversity, equity, or inclusion, but the emphasis is always on equity because they know I have an equity book, right? So they know that that's something that I talk about. Equity is in my DNA as an educator. It's who I am. It's who I was before I knew it was a word, right? Outside of real estate. So they'll say to me, please don't say that word. Well, you got people in those red states, just because it's a red state don't mean it's not a lot of black folks in them schools, particularly black women. So you got folks in those schools who have to comply with that, who have to conform with that, who want to do the right thing, but afraid that they could lose their jobs, afraid that they could be punished for doing the right thing. So
I just want to emphasize, when you're talking about afraid, like I in work with debate, often I work with coaches from red states, from like Oklahoma or from Wyoming, or and in talking to them, even for the last 2 summers, because it was already hot for them. It was already hot for them in their states, because they're literally passing laws where many of the arguments, I'm a debate coach, many of the arguments we run in debate, they can't even talk to their kids about. In Arkansas, we had a debate coach on it from Arkansas who's literally suing the state of Arkansas so he could teach some of the authors that we talk about. So when you're saying scared, like they're scared of losing their jobs, they're scared of death threats. And this is not just black folks, this is white folks. Like people I'm talking about, a lot of the people I'm talking about are white folks who are scared because if they teach the wrong thing, like the woman in Oklahoma who took a picture of the Brooklyn Library and had to escape to Brooklyn because she received so many death threats. They offered her a job up there, but she literally escaped because her life was threatened. So you were saying threats. I just want people to know that these things are serious.
It's real. And as you said, they're white teachers, they're white liberals who want to do the right thing, but they want to keep their jobs, right? They want to keep all the stuff off of their backs. So therefore they have to comply with those expectations. But see, for me, when you talk about equity, right? Equity it translates into great teaching, because if I can take probably a complicated definition and simplify it, reduce it to its lowest common denominator, equity simply means meeting the children where they are, as they are, right? Because if youngster is coming in, figuratively speaking, down here, but I'm trying to reach him up here. I'm probably not going to reach him, but if I can come down there by way of relationship, by way of cultural relevance, by way of cultural responsiveness, by way of equity, and meet you right there, and now let's go to this place that we're trying to get to. But so when I'm on that Zoom call, I'm explaining that to them. They say, wait a minute now, because I don't know what your definition of this is. Because see, here's the other challenge,
Right.
There's no universal definition of equity. And that's a big problem. See, like remember the days of, and I say remember the days because we don't talk about it the way we used to, growth mindset, right?
Yep.
So everything growth mindset was coming out of one scholar, Carol Dweck. So we had a national language around growth mindset. There was national uniformity around what this thing called growth mindset means. So now here comes equity around 2012-ish. It becomes a thing beyond net worth and net value of a property, right? It's a thing in education. But scholar A was saying it was such and such. Scholar B said, well, it's something a little bit different than that. Scholar C said, no, this is what it is. Scholar D said, and it went on and on. So now you got all these folks with their own interpretation of what equity is. And then the ones who suffer from that are A, the teacher, and B, big B, the student that's in the classroom, because we don't have uniformity as to what that is. There's nothing political about this word equity.
Differentiation is equity.
But it's taken on political connotation. But it's not a political word. It's meeting the children where they are as they are. When we talk about equity in the classroom, of course, equity can be used with a whole lot of things. We can use it with finance and so forth. But I'm talking about in the classroom. I just want to meet Jalil. I want to meet you right there. And let me say this one thing, John. So therefore, as a student-centered educator, here's where people get kind of crossed up. As a student-centered educator, that means I'm not doing direct instruction to a whole classroom where everybody's getting the same thing at the same time, because Jalil needs me in a way that Jamila does not. But if I don't have the skill set to be student-centered and therefore be able to focus on this youngster while this other group of youngsters or groups of youngsters are working independently, and as I work my way, and this is what you do, and as I work my way through and around the classroom, now everybody benefits, but they benefit according to where they are.
So Brother Kafele,
Yes, sir.
I was wondering if we first off, let me say this. I'm not as interested in asking you questions as I am and having a conversation with you, because you're family and you're like part of this show.
Yes, sir.
So, I mean, I really want to talk based around, where we were. I think about 2 years ago when Mayor Baraka was dealing with the global high school issue. And one of the things he had talked about was, he said that when he went there, he said what he was stunned by is that when he talked to some of the teachers and the black kids that they were teaching, he said that one of the questions he had in his mind, he didn't ask them, but he said that the question he had in his own mind was, what books did they read in undergrad or in graduate school? And so they're teaching young black kids, but they have no reference to how they're talking to them, right? Or no reference to what their history is. Yeah. And so therefore, for them to be Latino and not have any reference whatsoever to black kids and make them feel in their own community. And this is another part of what Bashir was talking to me about, I think yesterday. And it's an important question, because he asked me, he said, why do you think, with all of the great teachers we've had in Newark, why do you think we have not built a black, if you will, charter school where knowledge of self is being taught to young black kids, right? Yeah. So you have a great teacher like Jonathan Austin, a great debater like that teach debate like Jonathan Austin, but the average kid at Weekway is not going to get an opportunity to experience John Austin or those kids at Global, right? For that matter of fact, because now at Global, I understand there are no black kids there. So why do you think we haven't moved to And I'm saying let's have a conversation. I don't want it to be a question,
Yeah.
but as Black folks, why haven't we moved to, with all of the educators we got, haven't moved to as a people to at least create a Black charter school like a Miriam did with the African schools back in the day?
You know, we were close.
Chad school. Chad.
Yeah.
Well, Chad is one. Chad early. Chad started the ball.
Yeah,
But
Bashir used those as examples because,
Yeah,
as you all know, that's where he started out at.
Yeah, recently though, we, you know, and they came under attack. You know, Sister Frederica had started a school from the bottom up.
Sure.
From pre-K, you know, and they were in that big old building that's now the Audible building, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they came under attack, and that's a whole nother question, right? Because, you know, I mean, you know, education politics in this town are funky, and this whole thing at a top flight school in Newark, and that's what we're talking about with global studies, you know, is an example of that kind of baggage that we're still dealing with in this town and in this particular school system.
And the name, because you had Marcus Garvey in Newark too, right? You had schools with names that you would think, you know.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And
There
other
was a
places
Marcus
beyond Newark as well.
Mhm.
Trenton comes to mind in terms of charter school. But
Yes.
going back to the question, I mean, it's you know, Ed, it's really with anything that we do. Are we willing to make those sacrifices and come together and build our own institutions, you know, whether it be education, whether it be whatever, right? But before I continue with that, let me just say this, because you said something else when you talked about the lack of Jonathans in the world, or at least in Newark, or the lack of Bashirs, right? At the when we did the new did the National Black Political Convention conference at Science High School, I'm gonna repeat something I said on that stage. I said Bashir was speaking and he was talking about all the things he's doing in his classroom. And I said to him, I said to that audience, I said, Bashir, is there another teacher in your school at Weequahic that teaches the same thing that you teach in terms of just history curriculum? I'm not talking about I'm not talking about the extra that he puts in it, just a history curriculum. And he said, yes, right, which I expected. I said, do the other history teachers bring the African-centered component to the work that you bring to it? And he said, no. I said, so therefore, being a student in your classroom, and we'll call you teacher A, or being a student in another history classroom, we'll call that teacher B, right? Whomever I wind up with could have lifelong implications, right? So I can wind up with a Bashir, and I may come out with a consciousness that I want to open up a school, right? I want to lead the effort,
go in and
build up my team, and replicate what I got from brother, whatever they call him, Mr. Akinyele.
They call him Mr. A.
That I got from Mr. A. I want to replicate that on a school level, right? But because of the seeds he's planting, a youngster has a higher probability of thinking that way, because now I have a level of consciousness. Whereas I can be in with teacher B, who does not bring that dimension to the history, who does not engage in that level of conversation for whatever the reason. Maybe I don't have the wherewithal, or maybe I don't have the confidence, or maybe I'm fearful of having that conversation with young people, whatever it is. But now I come out of that class, same subject, same grade level, but a different experience.
Totally different.
And that experience can have lifelong implication as well. So who I'm assigned to, and Jonathan, as a longtime teacher, you know this. You know that there are students that have walked through your classroom door who are better because they met you, because they were in your space with you versus somebody else in the world. I don't want to implicate your school, so just somebody else in the world. So when we talk about young people and why we don't do this and why we don't do that, young people are not coming out the womb with consciousness. That's something that has to be introduced. That's something that has to be nurtured. That's something that has to be developed. So am I around the right people? So again, by the luck of the draw, I wind up at my high school weekway with a man by the name of Mr. A, right?
Mhm.
Whereas the other, so homie that lives on the same block is not in that same classroom. That youngster is in a different class and now comes out with not only a different experience, but a different level of African-centered consciousness.
Mhm.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a big deal. So the question becomes, in addition to which I'm gonna get to, what do we do about getting more conscious people in the schools? Because see, despite the work I do, and I'm very, very open with my views on this. If we continue to go down the path that we're going down in schools, and this is despite the success that it was experienced in Newark this year, right? If we continue to go down this path where youngsters are in classrooms and don't get what they get from a Bashir Akinyele, right? Then then the next generations, when we're long gone, will be asking the same questions.
Mhm.
Because see, remember now, I brought up Bashir, but I'm in a whole lot of schools that don't have a Bashir.
Mm.
So youngsters are not going to have that experience. So it's like principals used to ask me, or they still do, Principal Kafele, could you come to the school and do an assembly? Right. And I really think I aged out of that now, doing those motivational assemblies in some high school, like bringing someone young, but they'll ask me to do it. But here's my response. I say, I don't do assemblies anymore. Give me any 25 to 50 kids. I don't care who they are. Give me any 25 to 50 and let me spend 4 to 6 hours with them. Now, of course, a lot of principals will say, but I want my whole school to hear you. I'm saying, but that's counterproductive. They'll hear me at 9 o'clock in the morning, and by 3 o'clock this afternoon, they forgot I was even there. It's just a rah-rah speech, right? Or whatever, right? I can't get deep, not in an assembly the way I would want to. Right. But if you give me that library space, give me 25 to 50, let me bring my curriculum and let me spend all day with them, them kids gonna be changed. Right. And that's and although it's only one day, they're going to be introduced to content, to knowledge that they didn't walk into the building with when they walked in that morning. Right. So again, so my point is building schools, building institutions. You know, I'm one of them hardcore cultural nationalists. You know, criticize me if you like.
No,
but
right on.
But that's just where I am.
Our teachers need to be there. And teachers,
I've been there forever, since the 80s, that there'll be no political revolution without a cultural revolution.
Right.
I mean, that's just who I am, and I'm not going to waver from that.
So you know, I think, brother, we you know, I was listening to Brother Nuri 2 weeks ago when he came in.
I listened to it too.
You know, and you know, as when he talked about, you know, when he said that, you know, he'd been to like 150 cities and 150 states, and in those 150 states, he checked out, he checked out who the mayors were and all of that, and out of them, he found that Mayor Baraka was the best, the most progressive, and all of that. And you know, when he referred to him as brother, I went back, looked at a tape. And Minister Farrakhan, you know, talked about when another, you know, and he talked about there was a time when we would call each other brothers and all of that. Someone sent me a tape when Minister Farrakhan introduced that and said why we ought to call each other brothers and why he thought being called brother was more important than being called minister. He wanted to be called a brother. I say that to say that how could we call ourselves brothers and sisters and our children are suffering in the way that they are in schools, right? Yeah. You know, Bashir told me today, I think it was today or yesterday, he was telling me that, you know, he said that the school weekway is crowded. And he was saying that one of our brothers had said, hey, man, I want my daughter to get into school. Can you go to the principal and ask him? And he did, right? But the principal said, hey, man, you know, I don't have any room for any seniors because he wanted his daughter to have an experience with Bashir. Like if I had children, I would want my children to have an experience with Jonathan. right?
Mhm.
Whether they did debate or not, the experience with him, like you said, when they leave, that level of consciousness that they're going to get would cause them to do something that would be of value to our people, right? So, and I heard you when you said that we're not willing. I don't think at this particular point, that we're going to have much of a choice, because when you look at how our history is being dialed back, you look at the National Museum in Washington, D.C., and when President Trump went in there, he had issues with all of that history.
Yeah.
And because he thought it was offensive for us to tell that level of truth to our kids. But I've never heard anyone that's gone in there or been taught by Bashir or been taught our history, because I know the effect of that on me, that it has not had some sort of positive effect.
That's right.
Right, to change our lives. So I hear you, brother, when you say that, it's a matter of willing. But then we have to move to at least being able to educate principals and educate teachers.
Yeah.
That they're going to be able to welcome the Jonathan Austins and the Bashirs into the school, because what one of the things is that I found is that
speed their development when they come in young.
Yeah. And I say this, I've never met one of John's students that he taught debate to that wasn't confident. And if there's nothing that our people, young people, what they need is a level of confidence. Because Bashir was telling me yesterday, he said that the new students that came in this year, he said he could barely hear them. He said when he talked to them, they got their head down. What's your name, brother? My name is, brother. He said, why your head down?
Well, check this out. I would think you all, at least some of you, would know the name Akeem Cunningham. Right, he is the chairperson, the Essex County chairperson of Mikey Sherrill's campaign. Right.
Say that name again.
Akeem Cunningham from East Orange.
Okay,
that's one of my students. Right, and I don't even want to get into the specificity of our relationship, but that's one of mine going back to middle school. I know you all know Kylisha Hill.
Oh yeah,
yes,
that's one of mine.
That's right.
Right. See, and I go on and on. I got a lot of them out there. I don't know if you know Ivana Wade, right? But there's so many of them out there. So, I'm breaking all the rules when I was a principal, when I was a teacher, and as you all know, I got into trouble for it too. But I'm still standing. Right.
And principal, if I could just interject right there, I know Kalisha and I know Akeem, and if I say to them or talk to them, they're where they are now goes right back. They'll go back to, Principal Kafele, even to this day. Principal Kafele taught us. Principal, and I just wanted to say that while you're saying.
I appreciate that. Yeah, no, I appreciate it, because that's the quality I brought. So therefore, Ed, when I'm with I'm with principals all the time. That's like I'm just flying in today. I'm with principals all week, and I find ways not just to deal with the generic content of leadership, but I find ways to weave in that information 100% of the time. But here's and I said 100%, but here's what frightens me. When I start dropping in a little history there and there, I'm not having the Mumia conversation, right? But because then they'll just run me out of town. But there are things that I'm talking about that are relevant. But here's the challenge, y'all. These folks don't know nothing.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, there are people that know some things. Don't get me wrong, because there are some conscious people in those audiences, but there's a whole lot of black folks in those audiences.
Right.
Not.
Right.
Who what they know of the history of themselves, you could proverbially fit on the head of a pin.
Wow.
They don't know. So then at lunchtime or during a break time, I'll try to gather some together. Like I'll sit at their table, and try to have those conversations with them and just try to drop a few things on them. And sometimes that goes over well. Other times, like anywhere, you and I can go somewhere and try to talk some consciousness to some folks, and they don't want to hear you.
Right.
So they reject you. Well, them folks are in these schools as well, so they don't want to hear that, right? Because they were born into this same pop culture that the children are experiencing right now. So that's who they are. They try to be like them, dress like them, you know, all that dress down, all that stuff, right? In the name of being able to relate, or the children being able to relate to them. Where I'm saying no. Until you start, I'm talking about the teacher and the leadership now.
Yes, sir. That's right.
Until you start reading, right? Because there are things that you just don't know.
Yeah.
So nothing's going to make sense to you. You know, everybody knows that I always bring up the name Dr. Carter G. Woodson, right? Everybody knows that.
Yes,
That's like the brand, right? But here's the thing. I've never gone into a room, regardless if it was a room of African-American educators, white educators, or a mixture of whomever, right? I've never gone into a room where a lot of the folks knew who he was, right? They don't know who he is, right? So I say to him, well, you do know Black History Month, right? Yeah, okay. Well, he created that back in 1926 as Negro History Week. You didn't know that?
Wow.
No.
Wow.
They don't because but here's the thing. They're going on how they were taught. So if I'm ignorant of my past, of my history, if I'm ignorant of just the world, that's the quality that I'm going to bring to my classroom. I can only bring what I got. So now if that's all you working with, what are you going to produce? You can't produce that which you don't have within you, right? So I'm looking at them, I'm talking to them, and I'm like, you know, I'm saying to myself without saying to the audience, I'm like, damn, you know, and I've been doing this. I've been public speaking for 39 years, but in terms of the work I've been doing as an entrepreneur, I've been doing it for 14 years, and I'm still saying, damn. You know, it like it hasn't gotten old with me yet. Where you know what it is, just do what you do. It still hurts. Matter of fact, let me tell you what hurts even more, which ties into this conversation. This hurts more because I experience this everywhere I go. When I go into a space and it's predominantly non-Black, right? So it could be predominantly white, could be predominantly Latino. I was in North Dakota recently and it was predominantly Native American, right? But when that one or two African-American young men are in that audience and they go out of their way to avoid me, right? Go out of their way not to say hello to me, that hurts. That's more than a damn. That's the word I can't say on here, right? It's like, man, like you don't have to be afraid of me. These people invited me here, right? Because I understand, you know, I understand the politics when I may say X, Y, and Z, and someone, I can't be around that guy because he might cost me he might have people looking at me funny, and I'm thinking to myself, they brought me here, right? You don't have to be afraid. You should be going out. You know you're not accustomed to a Black man providing professional development in your life.
Right.
I mean, that's just not going to be the norm, the majority. So when I come in as the aberration, my expectation is that you're going to embrace, like, yo, like, and then we can have the private conversation. Like, I'm glad, like the ones that do have the courage, man. I'm so glad you're here, man.
Right.
We ain't never got nothing like this before, right? But when you run off and hide, and I got all these other folks who are not Black and they want selfies. They want my autograph and all that kind of stuff. And now you running, you getting out of town. Right. You don't want to be seen with me, or you got you dealing with your own internal issues of self-hatred. So you don't want to mess with me because you ain't good with yourself. That's the stuff that hurts, because that mindset is going to be back in that classroom tomorrow.
That's right.
Right.
And Mary calls them poison Negroes.
Yeah, that's it.
But and they're scared.
I remember when I met Dr. Gunther for the first time.
I read my first too.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that brother did was when we walked in his class, he had said to me, he said, brother, good to meet you. He said, but I want you to read 2 books, man, before we get to talking. and he said, "I want you to read the Miseducation of the Negro, and I want you to read Frederick Douglass."
Yeah.
And he said, "Then we can talk."
Yeah.
And he said to me one day, I went to his office privately. He said, "You couldn't even be my student unless you read those 2 books."
There you go.
I just want you to know that, you know.
Powerful.
And that was revolutionary for my life, right? Because every time we would sit in those classes,
gave you a foundation that was clear.
And so when you talk about that, Brother Kafele, you're right? Like it's the people, because I know what I noticed is that after I read those books, not only did I listen more intently to him, right, but I walked out of there feeling good about myself.
Yeah.
Right. And he always said, you know, Dr. Gunther would always say, he would always say, I'm trying to make teachers. He said, because you brothers have to leave here and go teach.
Yep.
Right. And I thought about that because, you know, even though I never became a teacher in that way, whenever I met people like Jonathan, who I met as a young man, right, just having graduated from Yale, I always tried in my own way to be an example to them of somebody who kept their word, right? And I remember Dr. Gunther was so big in my life as a young man. When I met this brother, I think now when Mayor Baraka said that when he got the Global, he said the question he had in his mind was, what books did these people read?
Yeah.
And you're right, brother, when you talk about the us having read those books and you know, being able to impart into those children. That's why I think that, you know, my brother Jonathan, whenever I look at his students, they so bright, they so goddamn smart, right? I almost feel stupid talking to some of these kids because I know Jonathan have read.
You got him ready.
Yeah, right. And that is because of who he is.
Yeah.
But my problem always lies in the fact that we need the masses of these young people to experience that.
Yeah.
Because like you said that, you know, you've gone into these places and you see these people and they don't know.
That's right. They have no clue. They don't know.
I love the idea when you talked about going in for an entire day.
Yeah.
And with 25 kids. What is your curriculum like? You don't have to go into it all because I know we don't have much time, but you're talking about how do you actually change? And what you said there, it's kind of like you are. I'm just waving hi to my wife, so she made me smile.
No, I knew that. You can see
we all knew that.
That's right.
Hey,
Funny you didn't think we knew that.
All of y'all got good wives, better way.
But it seems like what you talked about is kind of a model because it's not about diversity, equity, or inclusion. It's really they're promoting a white nationalist education. That's why the word equity doesn't make sense.
That's right.
And the way that they use it, right? They don't mean what they say. They're pushing a white nationalist education, and it's hurting our kids all over the country. What you talked about seems like it could be a model of not just professional development, but student development.
Yeah.
What do you do in the what is the thing for that day?
See, here's let me give you somebody else that did that. Street Doctor and the Street Warriors did the same thing, right? They go into a school and they stay all day. They go into juvenile detention facilities and stay all day. I used to go into Essex County. A lot of people don't know this because I didn't broadcast it and social media didn't exist. But I spent 2 to 3 nights at Essex County Juvenile Detention Center after leading a school all day. I would go and talk to the young men for about an hour, right? The sad part about that was some of them kids were my former students when they were in middle school, right? But but it gave me, you know, it gave me a certain level of credibility because they were so glad to see me and tell all their friends in there that that's my principal, that's my former principal. But I'd be in there for about an hour in that gym. And although it wasn't that curriculum where we're talking about goal setting, where we're talking about attitude, you know, when we you know, all those kinds of things, it was me doing that kind of stuff without the structure. And it was a beautiful thing going in there and not just and the other thing is, because I guess I just don't talk about this, or at least I haven't been posting it. That's not the only juvenile detention facility that I've been in. I've been in other ones across in different parts of the country.
They won't let
And the warden will always say to me, it's like clockwork. The warden will say when I get there, because typically I'm not going there, I'm not in that city for the juvenile detention facility. I'm there for a school, but someone at the school will know someone at the facility and say, can Kafele come and talk to the young men, right? So then I'll go. The warden will stop me at the front door and say, can you just give us a strong 5 to 10 minutes max? And that's including the first time I went to Newark. And I play like I don't understand. And I say, yeah, okay, no problem. But why do you say that? I'm just curious. And they'll say, well, their attention spans are very short. A lot of them, they were in special needs when they were in school, and all that kind of nonsense. I say, okay. So in my mind, I say, okay, pay attention, watch me. So then, like Zaid, you can appreciate this. I spoke at the juvenile detention facility in Omaha, Nebraska. Right. All right. So then I said, okay, we just gonna use Malcolm for this.
Right on. That's where he was born. That's
right.
Right. So they said, can you speak to the young men in the high intensity unit? I said, yeah. I said, I think I can infer what that is, but what does that mean? And they said, this is the most dangerous kids in Omaha. I said, okay. So I get up to the room. They got cell doors all over the place, right? And one of the kids was in solitary, so they wouldn't let him with the population because they said he had done something. But he put his ear to it wasn't bars, it was doors with bars. So he had his ear to the door. So I spoke to them for 90 minutes. I'll never forget that day. And in a good hour, that 90 was just talking Malcolm, right? So then I only stopped because I felt like I was there overtime. I didn't know how long they were supposed to be in there. I didn't think the people would want to be rude to me and say, you got to wrap it up. So I just kept going. So then as I was leaving, the biggest young man in there, about 16, 17, he said, wait a minute, Principal Kafele, big, like big, about 6'3" kid, right? He said, Principal Kafele, I got to ask you a question. I said, what's up? He said, we all live in Omaha. We all went to school in Omaha. What makes it that we never learned this before? We didn't know Malcolm was from here, right?
Wow.
So, and when I walked in that room, they were all slouching in the seat, right? Like looking at me like, what this Negro got for us, right? Within the first 2 minutes, they sitting up like this, just focus, man. And I just kept going. But that's how it was in Newark, right? That's how it was in other places that I've been, right? They see that. So in other words, I'm sharing this with you to say this. They want that consciousness, even the ones that seem like they don't, right? Because someone could go in there with a level of consciousness but don't know how to relate to children, right? So therefore they think, oh, the kids don't want this. No, they do. They want it, but you got to know how to connect with them. Right. That's a skill. Right. That doesn't just come with showing up black, right? It doesn't just come with showing up with a certain level of knowledge. You've also got to know how to connect with children. And and when you come in there, and I'll add another piece, you also got to want this.
Yes,
right?
sir.
You got to be passionate about this. Like
yes,
like I want to be successful in here, because if I am, these babies are going to be successful. Let me give you one more. I'm on the west side of Chicago. They got like maybe 300 students in a high school. That's little. But they got 10 administrators. 10. One principal and 9 assistant principals. So I was there to do PD during the day. So in the afternoon, they said, can you talk to all our boys? So there's about 150 boys in the cafeteria. I said, yeah, west side of Chicago. So the bell rang for them to leave at the end. Like they told me to give them like 10 minutes. I went about an hour and some change, right? So then the bell rang. Nobody moved. I figured they were going to jump up and try to go home, right? Or leave the building at least. They stayed there. I was like, all right. So I kept going a little bit longer. So then I said, I know y'all got to go. So they said, they gave me this big applause, right? Then they come up The leader in the room comes up and stands right next to me, and the rest of them follow. And he said, Principal Kafele, you got a business card? I said, yeah, but why you ask? He said, I just want to stay connected to you, man. I ain't never heard nothing like this before. Right? Then the next one, I get one too. The next one, I ran out of car. I had a whole stack, but I didn't expect that. High school, west side of Chicago. Right? See, when you see, they hungry for that information.
Yes.
They hungry, but you got to know how to connect with young people.
And Principal Kafele, the sincerity too.
Yeah.
Information with somebody who knows that they're with somebody that's sincere about their needs, what you're saying, and you're not just pushing something, to them.
They see that, they read that, they know that you are sincere about the business that you're engaged in.
And I wanted to add that Dr. Gunther, actually back in the day when I was in his class, he also taught at Rollway State Prison too, So I think one of the things I can remember my mother being at Essex County College when it was on Clinton, and then they came over to this new building. I was a little girl and I used to go to school with her. And I can't, what is the principal, the president, what's his name? I can't think of the president of Essex County.
Oh.
Yes. And just back what Ed, I think we were so close when Amiri Baraka, to having that type of school at one point, we were there. When you said like the Chad school, all of that, and that was something born out of South 10th Street, that we were there. And talking to Dr. Gunther in the later years, after his retirement, where people began to beat people down because they saw, the potential. And I can even remember you doing the keynote at Orange High School graduation. You was like, yeah, I know y'all asked for 30 minutes, but I'm going to give y'all like a half an hour more because y'all need it. And y'all not going to tell me to leave. So when you have that room and that audience that you need to talk to command that space as well. And I think now more than ever, we have to do something, because I just sent everybody out that in New York, they just opened an HBCU high. And why aren't we doing it here? We have everything we need. And Newark probably was one of the first who's done all that type of, with the Amiri and all of that.
I'll be bringing her on my Saturday. I just sent her an email today that she's got that partnership with Delaware State. But speaking of Dr. Gunther, he was a regular when I was a middle school principal. He was a regular in my building to talk to my kids. Dr. Jeffries was a regular. Infodition was a regular, and so many others. What you call it, man? I'm having a mental block. What's the sister City College that used to come on with Imhotep? Man, I'm talking. Camille Yarbrough. She I had her at the school. I had Sister Soldier at the school. I had so many people.
Remember those days? Remember those days?
Yeah.
Dr. Brown from right.
Yeah, we had so Akeem he's sitting in there. I'm exposing them to those. I wanted to bring Dr. Small in, but what happened? I don't mind saying this publicly because it's years later. Dr. Jeffries went so hard that a math teacher went right to the superintendent, and this was when I was in trouble. Right? this was after my suspension.
Good trouble.
I brought Dr. J in. He had been in several times, but he went so hard. This teacher went right to the superintendent, and Dr. Small was reaching out to me like when you gonna bring me in? And I wanted to bring him in, but I said, man, I'm in enough trouble now. I already been all over the news. I already been suspended. I already had a termination hearing. Let me lay low, man.
Hey, we're rumbling for you.
That's hilarious. No,
but you know that was dope, man. That your students actually had an opportunity to see these people, man.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That is amazing.
That's right. That's right. They actually saw them, talked to them, shook their hand. It's a beautiful thing.
Now, I know this is we got to have you back on. I know this is always powerful. I know we have another guest who's backstage for this final segment.
I'll be watching.
So this first Friday is the people that come on time. This is the response.
Well, no, people usually come on time. Actually, we just keep them waiting. But Principal Kafele, we want you to close this segment out with whatever inspiration you want to give us, whatever you want to say, and we got to have you back on more. Like, we want to have you back on.
Yeah,
along with that hip hop, along who you listening to when you're doing this work and driving those long roads when your flight don't work out.
Well, if Hawk was here, you know what he would tell you. Make sure you say Hakeem Green.
Hawk's my man anyway, but closely associated with Hawk, the blast master, the teacher. KRS-One, and mine is not cliche. I literally listen to him on the plane, along with my other stuff. I'm a Luther guy, I'm a Frankie Beverly guy, but I put on the Blast Master as well, and listen to his stuff too, especially his earlier stuff. He's that guy.
And he's doing a lot of work in Newark at the.
I know. Yeah.
Okay.
I saw a video where he was talking to some of the Sean Bay had him in, I think, and I saw a video where he was talking to some of the young brothers. Yep.
Indeed.
Oh, but that last message, now, just whoever's going to see this, real simple. Tell somebody who didn't see it, send the video to them, right? Tell them to check it out. This was a good conversation. And I think that somebody who didn't get to experience our conversation today, they'll benefit from it. So just if you're on right now or you'll see this later, share this with somebody else.
And what if they want to see you every Saturday? How should they? Can they show up?
Oh, that's right. That's right. You can see tomorrow at 11.
That's right. 10:55 to be precise, because we do them shout outs. But you can go to Facebook right here at Principal Kafele. You can go to X at Principal Kafele, LinkedIn at Principal Kafele, or you can go to the YouTube channel at AP and New Principals Academy. And you can also binge watch the 279 sessions that you haven't seen. They're all there. And I told Raz, I just have to put it together. I said, I want to bring you on, and I don't want you to be the mayor. And he said, yes. I said, I want you to be the principal of Central High School.
Yes, sir.
Right. And I told him, I said, let's just me and you go one-on-one and talk principal leadership, right?
Wow.
We lead a mayoralty over here, right? And we talk principal leadership. So he said, yes, I just have to put it together.
Yeah, that's gonna be dope.
That'd be a great show.
Yeah, wait
That'd
on
be a great
that.
show.
Yeah, no doubt.
You follow him at principalkafele.com.
Thank you for that. Principalkafele.com.
Oh, nice.
Thank you.
And you did see that Principal Kafele? Somebody just said they shared it with 20 of their friends already.
Yeah,
Right.
I appreciate that.
Right.
Yeah, that's good.
That's how this works.
That's how it works.
So thank you again, and
All right,
as
good.
always, man, we are honored.
I'm very proud of you. Very proud of you.
Appreciate
Thank
you.
you, sir.
Appreciate
Brother
you.
Kafele, man, I'm honored to call you brother, man.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Likewise.
Thank you.
Likewise.
Yes,
Yep.
sir.
Yeah. And let me see how I can say this without it. And when I get stuff, I just continue to forward it to you. We'll leave it right there.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it, brother.
Absolutely.
Hey, Kafele, I appreciate we got that kind of relationship, brother.
Yeah.
No
doubt.
I don't even need to check it. I know it's been checked.
Yeah, that's it.
Absolutely.
All right, y'all. I'll be on here watching.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
All right. Peace.
All right.
Peace.
Good set as always.
All right, and we have Zaid. Welcome, and thank you for your patience. And welcome to All Politics Are Local. Zaid, you could do the wonderful introduction.
Well, let me try and do it this way. JP, this is your first time on this particular platform.
Hey, this is my first time here, and I got here on time.
JP,
I didn't know.
JP.
I didn't know about Donna and Ed always asking these questions to push things over into a different time slot. Well, I got here. As a matter of fact, I was here 5 minutes early because I was like, I don't want to be late.
Now, it's not just me and Donna. You know, sometimes Roundtree do that too. You know.
Oh, Roundtree
yeah.
going all night. You gotta stop that.
I gotta start pushing her off 10 minutes early. I gotta get off at 7:50 and be like, hey, you know, we only got 10 minutes left.
JP is a very polished young organizer with Black Alliance for Peace and community movement builders. We're doing a program together, Malcolm program together. This is still Malcolm Centennial, but more than that, JP is repping here for community movement builders coming into this community. Community movement builders is based in Hotlanta, and have had Hotlanta real hot, and what we call the fight against Cop City, and that is an epic ongoing battle in that town. And to be sure, all the work they did, everything you're supposed to do in the land of organizing to stop that monstrous police imposition on that space. A whole lot of Black leaders, by the way, you know what I mean? A whole lot of Negroes, right? And not only is that fight continuing, but there is a growth of the organization in other communities. And this young man represents that growth here in Newark. So PhD candidate, and he said in his bio that he loves his Southland and he loves that crawfish. I said, nah, but he ain't say where he from now. That sound like Louisiana. Where you from, son?
Oh, okay.
Where that JP from? Who you belong to?
Yeah, I'm from Louisiana.
What part?
I'm from Shreveport. So
okay.
Yeah, it's northwest, the opposite corner of New Orleans. I have to say that every time I feel like, because everybody.
We know Shreveport, but you gotta say that for like people don't know. Like I'm from Louisiana. You might assume New Orleans.
and random question. I expect you to say no to this because I sometimes get my cities and Louisiana mixed up. You wouldn't happen to know Dr. Tommy Curry at all, or heard of him, or any of that stuff?
I'm familiar with his work.
Oh, okay. But he's also from, I thought he was from Shreveport. He's from Louisiana.
Oh, I don't think I knew that.
Louisiana. Yeah, Dr. Tommy Curry, he was a debater in Louisiana, and he was from a very small town in Louisiana. But it was by a major city. And I think Shreveport's right next to Texas, right?
It is.
And so I think that I'm thinking it's that. I got to call him and let him know. But if crawfish were around there, then maybe. If there are no crawfish, then it's not part of the story. So that's random on my part.
And Jonathan is like, who's the gentleman the attorney that always comes on and he talks about the different law projects? He's been on like twice.
Oh, I forget.
You know what I'm talking about? Yeah.
I don't
JP,
know.
he does a fabulous program down there in the New Orleans area, and talking about the jails and the pro and just how just the legal system and what goes on in jails. And I know I just heard a program on Urban View this morning with Dr. Carr and Lamont, and they were talking about Angola and how their guest was like, I don't even want to associate the name of the prison with the prison.
Why it was given
exactly. Oh my gosh, the conversation. But yeah, y'all down there, Louisiana,
our Africanness.
Yes.
Associate our Africanness with captivity.
Right. And now the federal government, I think, is looking at Louisiana right now for, since they were not successful in Florida, they then came over to Louisiana, like looking at for Louisiana to be the next alligator. Oh my goodness.
No, they're gonna send them to Angola.
So clearly, this is the first time you're on the show, because first of all, we keep you late, and then we keep you on for 10 minutes without even letting you talk. So,
okay, go ahead, JP. JP, and JP, I gotta say, JP, we get ready. I thought you was somebody's uncle coming on here. You a youngin coming on here. That JP name. That's a
He called him
name of
somebody.
wisdom, JP.
Yeah,
What you got
yeah.
for us?
Yeah, no, it's tough to follow the previous conversation. It was truly moving, and just the note about
So let me stop you. That's
Wow. He just said 3 seconds and you said, let me stop you.
no,
Okay.
let me stop you because no, in the flow
Welcome.
of that master teacher, he would want you to know and see yourself as the next line of master teachers. You ain't getting no PhD for nothing.
Mhm.
We're looking forward to your leadership.
We're looking forward to hearing what you have to say.
And I'm sure you heard him say that, but go ahead. We're gonna mute ourselves so we can hear you.
No, I was just gonna say, just briefly, the context of being in Omaha and talking about Malcolm and the young folks not knowing that that's where Malcolm was from, just reminded me of my own like formation as a young man in Louisiana, and not knowing about the Haitian Revolution until like very, very late in my education. But once it did, it just opened up so much and made me think about myself differently, made me think about Black people differently, our resistance, and how that resistance can create a domino effect to really give us liberation across the diaspora. And so, yeah, that was just to mention that because the Haitian Revolution was so important for what became Louisiana and Louisiana Purchase and all that. But so yeah, I'm coming here. Appreciate Baba Zaid for having me on. I'm one of the co-leads for Community Movement Builders, and Community Movement Builders is a collective of Black member collective of community residents and activists. And as an organization, started with the intention to stop police brutality, end police brutality, to end gentrification and the capitalist intrusion on our communities, and also to create sustainable systems. Including things like food sovereignty and gardening and so that we can take care of ourselves en route to a liberated future. And so one of the major one of the core values of Community Movement Builders is actually self-determination. And self-determination, I feel like, is a really good way to frame what the work that Community Movement Builders does. It was founded in Atlanta, in the Pittsburgh neighborhood, which was a neighborhood that was established by formerly enslaved Africans. And so, again, that being the place, it's a location, a space of self-determination, and even in that. And so, places are always important, and it's important that we understand where we are, and how that has an effect and determination on what it is that we're doing. And so, so Community Movement Builders' core value is self-determination. But the other core value that really drew me to Community Movement Builders was that it's rooted in Black love. And I know that has a particular kind of meaning in today's social media sphere. People talk about it, and it's usually related to sort of like nuclear family idea, of beautiful Black people, procreating and all that stuff, which is no shade to that. But when I think of what attracted me to the organization was Black love as a political act and a political motivation. And we just finished Black August, and one of the first things that George Jackson says in Blood in My Eye is that he was down with the Revolutionary Catechism by this Russian nihilist, but the thing that he did not like about it was the fact that it was too cold. He said that revolution has to be love inspired. And that's one of the things that drew me to community movement builders and really just propels all the work that I do. And in connection with the former segment, I have that love for youth and educating youth. Like I always want to be in a place where I can impart, some wisdom and also gain from, learn from what their experiences are, and those kinds of conversations and that exchange is there's nothing more beautiful to me than that. So yeah.
Let's stay with that for a minute, because and there's nothing wrong with you sharing your story as a part of the larger CMB story, right? What brings a young man from Shreveport, Louisiana, to Newark, New Jersey, of all places in the world, right? And to an effort to try and build something here along the lines of what you're talking about in terms of see how CMB is built.
Yeah. So what brought me here was my PhD program at Rutgers. Rutgers, New Brunswick. I'm studying English literature.
Oh, nice.
And at first I was in an area that was close to New Brunswick, but the more I would go through Newark and and get my hair done in Newark and just be around, I really loved being in the city. Of course, just the being a literature person, the legacy of Amiri Baraka and poetry, which are two things that are things that I'm interested in. Although my focus is a little bit earlier time period than whenever Amiri Baraka was writing, but in terms of CMB, I had been a member of the Black Alliance for Peace, as Baba Zaid mentioned, for a couple of years before I moved to Newark. And being a part of the Black Alliance for Peace, it's a anti-imperialist, anti-war organization, but it's also made up of other organizations as well as individual members. And one of those member organizations of the Black Alliance for Peace was Community Movement Builders. And I've been following the Stop Cop City movement for quite a while, and was really inspired by the work that they were doing, and that's what just got me connected to Community Movement Builders, and one of the things that I saw as being a part of when I moved to Newark and was here for a little while was just the ways that police were sort of embedded within the community, and I wanted to talk with folks who were like-minded, and I was at a lot of organizing meetings and hearing things about certain instances of police brutality and police killing, and I wanted to make the connection between what I was seeing here in the city and the organizational work that I was seeing with Community Movement Builders, and I think one of the things that really I hope that we as an organization, as a new chapter, are hoping to do is, there's such a rich legacy of organizing here in Newark. It's kind of, we're reading through reading about some of the organizational history that's gone down here, and and we want young folks to be connected to that, and the work that they're doing in terms of organizing. I spent quite a bit of time at the Rutgers Newark Solidarity Encampment with Palestine, and I was wondering, how were things being connected to the rich organizing legacy, of the city, and and I wanted to see more of that. And so one of the things that we're trying to do is really connect that organizing legacy with the young folks who are really, have a lot of energy and want to do something, but need to know that they're in a place that has a rich legacy that doesn't necessarily need to determine everything of what they do, but definitely needs to inform what they do. And so that's part of the story of why Community Movement Builders is now here. So
yeah, we're at a crossroads. We're at a crossroads on that front in this town. It's going to sharpen even further from external pressures and internal pressures as well. To external, we know we got this fascist overhead that we're fighting with now, right? And we need to get ready for them suckers coming back, and they're going to come back, with a greater show of force than they did the last time. And internally, you should, and I'll send it to you because I have to send out a blast in a little while. The consent decree, as we know it, is getting ready to wind down, and there's an important town hall on that process and on that discussion just next week, right? So we're at a crossroads. We're at a real crossroads, and consent decrees. Well, we got a lot of mileage, as much as you can, from the limitations of a consent decree, right? But the limitations are real, right? And so how's this going to function now without that kind of oversight? There's been some serious fight to build certain kind of relationships, and they're always uneven, and then just that's the big elephant in the room.
And it's always easy to slide back, right?
Yeah.
JP, I
The
know
police are just feeling far more emboldened right now, all over.
Yeah.
JP, do you still live in Shreveport, or are you just here in school, or are you here now?
I'm here in Newark now. Yeah. So.
I at one point pre-COVID, I would probably attend Essence Fest have you ever had the opportunity? I mean, I know I'm just not going to assume, but you spoke of Black love, and if you could reach like to the women in your family, I know at one point, coming from generations of women, Ebony in particular, Essence magazine, I remember just saving those magazines like they were like encyclopedias, and like you would throw everything away, but you kept your Ebony, Essence, and Jet. And if you ever, when I think of Black love and I think of Susan Taylor and going back, and if you could just get like from the 70s and 80s, like some of those old, probably at the library, those magazines, especially when you talk about Black love, like a February edition or like the January edition, she would always highlight generations of women, and but it was a place that you had to go to because not other magazines would tell our stories and things like that. So if you could ever, especially as an English lit, I don't know what you're going to do your dissertation on or whatever, but if you can reach back to those older magazines, I would tell you, please, it's almost like reaching to a good book, but the older ones was, especially when Susan was editor. And there are some things in there that you just can't, and Jet and Ebony, that you just can't get anymore because they're not in publication and or the ownership has changed. But for me, I used to be stationed in Biloxi, so I know New Orleans outside of the July 4th weekend. And I have to tell you, I want to say Essence Fest may be the most attended event in New Orleans, as they do numbers and everything. But that, in terms of Black love, to be in the city, it's like walking around and just seeing the most positive, in the smallest to the largest, from what's going on at the convention center, what's going on, down, it's the whole, it's just the vibe is just something. And I don't know, it's just something, when I think of that, I know I would live, I have gone for like 10 years straight and just stopped because I got out of it after COVID and everything. So that right there is like, it's just, to me, that week, that July 4th, that whole time was the embodiment of, you know, what they were showing, how you can see it in like the largest areas in the city and in the smallest.
Yeah. No, that tracks with what I know of. As I've never been. I lived in
Ah,
Louisiana for 30 some odd years of my life, but never been. So yeah.
yeah. Make sure you put that on your thing to experience it, and you know, make sure you do that. You know.
All right, definitely will. Definitely will.
Jonathan, you get ready popping. Well, go ahead. What we gonna say?
I wasn't gonna pop in. I was looking at this, and I saw yesterday the new ICE ad,
Mm.
and we were talking about police and what activists are needed. I just want to show this video. It's an ICE ad because they're recruiting, and
Yes,
what
they
you think
are.
about it, and what your thoughts on it are.
You're on mute. Can you put this? Oh, there you go.
Hiring. Some of their recruitment efforts have been unconventional. Here's what we know now.
Oh wait, this is not the actual ad. I thought this was the actual ad.
Yeah, that was.
But that's a documentary on the ad. I'll find the ad and then I will play it. But I was looking at that before and I was like, is that something to talk about? I saw it during the football game and it seemed like something that was a satire of ads. It seemed
Mm.
like there was a movie years ago called Starship Troopers that was making fun of, that was satirizing the way that, what would fascism look like if it was in a modern context and with videos and sleekness and commercials, etc. And it seemed like one of those ads, right? I don't know if you've seen it or not, but it is their $50,000 signing bonuses to join
Yes.
ICE.
Yeah.
They're hiring 14,000 people, and they're probably going to have like white nationalists and white Christian nationalists. They will be applying, right, to be able to buy their homes and put a nice down payment on it and do all kinds of things that they're going to be vested in. Given
And
that we
a lot of
literally,
black and brown men and women needing jobs, not realizing that that's the economic draft.
but I don't think many of them will be hired. Like I think some will be hired, right? I think some will be hired, but I do think that there's an ideology test that goes along with it. So they're giving around a signing bonus, but I don't. Let's put it like this: I just do not think many conscious people who have consciences who will be getting those positions. 'Cause I think it seems like it's for a pretty blunt reason.
Well, I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna give you some information. I want you to appreciate.
Bounty
Give you some
hunter.
intelligence. They are sending black ICE agents into the courtroom here in Newark. And some of them even identifying themselves after court's over. Yes, I'm with ICE. We're watching, we're looking for whoever we're looking for, and we're looking to see who we can see. They're here, right? They're not always loud, right? And when they're not loud, they look like you and me and her and him, right? So they're already here. And so they're definitely preparing for that next round. It's disgusting that we've got a comprador in DC that's not offering any pushback, right? But people in the street, and they're gonna get pushback. There's been pushback here. Los Angeles put some hellified pushback. Chicago is one of the most radical cities in this country. There's gonna be some pushback.
Maryland, yeah.
Which is what they want, right?
No, I mean, which is what we need. And we need to be clear about that. We need to be organized and strategic about how we do it, but it's what we need. So I just want to just say that. But let's get back on the respond to what he showed you. We need to also sum up the event coming up too. We haven't even touched that yet.
For sure. I think I can make a connection there actually. Yeah. So one of our first events that we were part of, we collaboratively hosted at the Refal Center was we had a webinar watch party. The Black Alliance for Peace has a Haiti Americas team. And we had a webinar watch party that, and this was back in April.
Y'all was at Refal?
It was.
Refal is on basis. Go ahead.
And yeah, and it was on the webinar was titled Migration, State Violence, and Global Displacement. And it talked about the roots, like the imperialist roots that you know, where resources are extracted from countries in the global south, which causes folks to migrate to the United States, and then they end up getting, you know, they basically just are acting like as a boomerang, where they come for the things that was extracted and stolen from them, and then they are told that they are not entitled to it. And, you know, and talked about, you know, the ways that while this, you know, while the current administration is making a spectacle of it, like this has been a thing that's been happening across many presidents, across Democrat and Republican presidents. And one of the,
that's right.
And one of the things that we've been raising is one of the things that came up, and we had a community discussion after the webinar, and we talked about Delaney Hall opening up in Newark, and how, you know, Geo Group, which is the private company that runs Delaney Hall, had signed this huge contract with ICE to detain folks, and, you know, recently learned that you know, that they're close to capacity in terms of how many people they're holding. But all that to say, you know, that you know, being one of the advantages of being in an organization like Community Movement Builders, which is very much a locally focused organization, and also being in an organization like the Black Alliance for Peace, is that I've been able to learn from and glean from and organize around talking about these different things at these different scales. So it's not just the fact that, you know, folks are getting snatched up off of our streets. There's other things that are the roots of that bring those folks here, and then, you know, they end up getting brutalized, you know, through this you know, fascistic colonial regime that we've got going on now. And you know, it's really interesting, you know, what the event that we have next Wednesday. It's a new book by Kehinde Andrews, who's a professor in the UK, and he also has an organization, the Harambee Organization of Black Unity. And the book is called Nobody Can Give You Freedom, and the subtitle is The Political Life of Malcolm X. And one of the things that you know, basically one of the major things that he talks about in the book is, you know, that Malcolm had a political program that was very, you know, lined out, that he was working on for years, right before he was taken from us. Even though Malcolm is often like soundbited and you know, used as a kind of symbol, often superficial symbol, often like people, it's not always obvious. It's not always apparent, like, you know, this legacy, this political legacy that he left. You know, Malcolm was an organizer, and that's often not something that folks recognize about him. You know, if you come across the flyer for the event, there's a particular image of the continent of Africa, but it has North America and South America within Africa, and one of the that image actually was inspired by a flyer that I discovered in this book about Malcolm. It was a flyer for the Organization of Afro-American Unity, and you know, one of the things that Malcolm was constantly trying to say is that when, you know, the American and Afro-American unity is not just talking about the United States, but it's talking about all of the Africans and Black folks who are not only in North America, not only in the United States, but also in, you know, in South America, especially Brazil.
It was a revolutionary Pan-African construct and an original contribution to revolutionary Pan-Africanism coming from the diaspora.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's important. It's important for us to recognize that, that we have connections to folks that are under similar conditions, because we're facing a similar the same enemy, and once we recognize that, I think it's important for us to, and I think this is one of the things that we'll talk about at the event on next Wednesday at 6 at Express Newark, is that we have connections to folks who are experiencing the devastation of an imperialist and capitalist order that's constantly extracting from us, and telling us that they're not doing that. And one of the things that we'll talk about at the event is that the Black Alliance for Peace has this campaign called the Zone of Peace campaign, where we're trying to make these connections. We're trying to make these connections between folks who are throughout the Americas, not just in the U.S., but folks who are in Peru, in the Caribbean, and that's right within the legacy, Malcolm's legacy of the Organization of Afro-American Unity.
And that has been a gem of his original contribution to revolutionary thought that has been glossed over for decades. My last partner, and I'm not going to mention the name because she'll have a heart attack, is from Panama. And I was really looking forward to us representing the bridge building that is reflective of what you're just describing, right? She it's in the New England area, like I said, from Panama, an international figure on the reparations front, because reparations as a construct, we have to push that in its most radical forms, right? We've been in spaces, nationally, locally, and internationally, that reflects the beginning of that bond. Several years ago, right after the COVID pandemic, there was a Pan-African conference hosted in Panama, right? Melita Barrow was one of the key organizers of that, and so that energy is starting to bubble, and it's a healthy bubbling, because it sharpens, the clarity and the natural bridge building that we should have been doing anyway. We have seen it, usually reflecting our language backgrounds, right? English speaking spaces. We've had our Pan-African conferences history that developed between London and the United States, right? Right, and the Mr. Garvey's impact. People don't realize that Mr. Garvey, and I have no problems calling him that, had a genuine Pan-African diasporic experience that touched all those bases. He had a huge chapter in Cuba, huge chapter. That was his biggest non-English speaking chapter. It was in Cuba, right? And then we can go on. It started actually with the printing in Panama, Costa Rica, and up and down all those spaces in the diaspora where those ships dropped our ancestors off. They're there. And so, we're overdue in building those bridges and making those links. Just point of information and full transparency. And I never talk about my work here so much, JP, but the Malcolm X Commemoration Committee is a co-sponsor of that. We have been doing we're going to continue to be doing a book signing thing, and we were glad to unite with CMB for this. MAPSO Freedom School is a co-sponsor, right? It's another, safe, liberated, radical space for parents, students, and teachers, put together by one of our very cherished Panther Cub, TJ Whitaker, right? Who's been here, and then we go back a lot of years. We actually were in an organization together that we built around Deruba Ben Wahad when he first got out of prison, right? It's going to be a serious conversation. We're looking forward to it. It's at 6 p.m.
6 p.m.
the lecture hall inside the Haynes building, or so-called Newark Express, right? So we want folks to look forward to that.
And JP, I put in the chat, if you can go to our chat, I put a link. In DC, the Congressional Black Caucus Annual Legislative Conference is coming up September 24. Have you ever been there?
I haven't.
Well, let me tell you, for a fairly, I'm sure, and this, doing your PhD, you've probably been to many conferences. I'll tell you, I've been to a lot of conferences that cost a lot of money, but for the cost of this conference and the exposure you get to the different panels and everything it's September 24th to the 28th. I know it's kind of short, but I will tell you, for a train ride, bus ride, you should look at it. It's usually like a Tuesday to Saturday, and depending, like you said, you're English, and they have like an education track, criminal justice track, and I'm sure I know for a fact that what's going on with the federal government trying to send police, National Guard to all of these communities with Black mayors and leadership is going to be probably at the National Town Hall. So you should look at it. But I also put in there was former Congressman Elijah Cummings. Our former Congressman Payne, he would do a brain trust on Africa. So those are all on YouTube that you can see. And Elijah Cummings would do a panel every year on Haiti, immigration, and what's going on with Haiti and everything. And I just put that one of his last ones that he did, in the chat for you. And it's like an hour long. You should watch it, but look at the conference and see if you and the colleagues can get down there and spread out and get the information, because it's everybody. And I like it because it's a mesh of the nonprofit meeting the legislator, meeting the funder, if legislation is coming down, so it could be a funded piece of, to do whatever program is supposed to come out of this legislation. Consider it. But also because, after COVID, a lot of things had to go on. So YouTube has a wealth of former panels that they did with a lot of information, and it's centered around legislation for particular, any community could use it. They say is anything that helps a Black community can help any other community, but it's particularly the Congressional Black Caucus. Their caucus gets together and they do different panels and things that are affecting our community. So I know this will be probably one of, if not the hottest topics, and the mayors convene on there and the local leaders convene and everything. So consider, and as well, I know when I last went for the 4 days, it was like $75 for the conference and everything. So, the biggest thing was where you're going to stay at, and you stay with 50 people, and it works out. So you know how to do that as a student. So so consider looking at it. But the one I sent you on Elijah Cummings is really good.
I think we lost him.
No, he's probably coming in and out.
He's trying to come back in and out, and I want him to hear what I'm saying. So I'm trying to hold on, but we got to keep talking because we're on the air.
Yeah. Well, and even I don't know, Zaid, are you going down? Are you going down for ACE?
I ain't going nowhere where I got to pay right now. I'm out of work, and I just got to be real about that.
Right.
Yeah. I wanted to say, he's losing his connection.
Looks like he's trying to come back in.
Yeah.
The connection is lost for now.
Yeah.
And when he comes back in, I'll put him on.
Yeah. But yeah.
Rhino live, Jonathan.
Is he coming in?
Rhino's in the background.
No, we don't have anything from 24 hours apiece, but we can talk about it.
I did send the Instagram. There is some live feed on Instagram, so I did send that to everybody.
Okay, cool.
Hakeem is doing live feed from there on Instagram and everything, so we can see, and short as he's shows and everything.
Okay.
Just like it,
Yeah, but the last segment was pretty good. I just went back to try to find that ICE recruitment video, and there are a lot of them. And have you looked
Those
at the Department of Homeland Security or government websites for any recently?
I, just trying to follow the daily news and staying abreast of what the different towns are doing in terms of pushback. And I had sent, did you see what I sent you? Where there was remark about, and I had, because you don't know what AI is doing, but there was a remark made, and then you had Governor of Maryland responding. Did you see that?
No, but
I'll
what I was
wait.
just
Yeah.
getting at was, yeah, the only thing I was getting at is that you know how we used to go to government websites and it wasn't necessarily, it might be boring, but it didn't seem like Hollywood propaganda. It is so slick, right? It's slick, it's engaging, but it's kind of like if it wasn't so scary, it would seem like satire. In terms of like basically white nationalists have gotten
Satire
really
was for
good at
these times.
right, have gotten really good at advertising and the videos, the ads. They are
Like
creating
the one for
it's
Venezuela. Did you see that? Like they were coming to America. We bombed 11 people, and they were like in a little boat, and they were bringing tons, a whole lot of this, and like.
but you have no idea what's true or real, right? You have no
Right,
idea.
exactly.
So
And
they just put
Venezuela's
stuff
like
on
that
there,
was
and you're like, well,
AI.
that doesn't seem true. That doesn't seem true either, right? Like, so you're looking and you're
Venezuela
finding,
is
yeah,
a Afro-Latin country full of oil, daring to be democratic socialist. That's what they don't want.
And remember when the president was there from Africa, and he showed them that whole video, and that whole video was fake. That they like, let me show you about the bodies, and they had the bodies lined up, and it was all fake. So you don't know.
President from South Africa, yes.
Yeah, and it's just the fact that you can't even trust what's coming out.
I just want to bring this back, and I just want to bring it back to what JP is trying to do with community movement builders. Just I'm very proud of their founding, and one of their lead organizers, Kamal Franklin, because a lot of community movement builders is in its own way Malcolm centered, and the direct ties to his ties to the New African Independence Movement through our Malcolm X grassroots movement network. Kamal comes through that, right? And I remember he was a young, just going into college, right? And we had a crew. Their crew came behind my old crew that was doing that work in New York in the 80s, right? They picked it up in the 90s, and going into the 90s, they did some very good stuff on a number of fronts, but particularly we're just leaving Black August, where there was a Black August hip hop project, right? It was an important Black solidarity project within hip hop that had an impact in, of all places, Cuba, right? Zimbabwe and some other places. So that, Kamal comes to CMB from that, right? And then we see the continuity, from there to here. So I just wanted to lift that up and just shout out our own personal pride in him. But let's come back to JP the scholar a minute, though.
absolutely.
Right? Yeah, we want to know what you got and where you're going. Now you're not, if I had told my family I was going to get a PhD in English literature when I was going to school in the late 70s, early 80s, they were like, "You're out of your damn mind, boy." And I tried to get a PhD, but I always got the wrong letter back when I applied, right? Why? With you've got these organizing instincts and whatnot, and you're trying to lay down this new stuff and whatnot. And you said you're the study that I heard you're leaning toward the period before we get to the time and the period of the Black Arts Movement. What are you doing your work on? What do we have to look forward to from your work?
Yeah. I think so. So the folks that I work with are much earlier. So I'm working with my dissertation is going to be on enslaved poets, and so I'm working with folks like Phyllis Wheatley, folks like there's a enslaved poet from New York named Jupiter Hammond.
The teaching platform, son. Talk. Go ahead.
Yeah. And then there were two in the South, George Moses Horton and a Potter poet named Dave the Potter. And it's really interesting that the two in the North are writing right around the Revolutionary U.S. Revolutionary War period in the late 18th century. And then the two Southern ones, George Moses Horton and Dave the Potter, are writing around the Civil War period. And yeah, so my dissertation is trying to think about them as poets. A lot of times when you encounter the scholarship, they're thinking about their biography as slaves, and it ends up being like, let's talk about their enslavers and how terrible they were, and not really doesn't give as much attention to the artistry and the craft of the poets themselves. A lot of what they write, they don't share my politics, but that doesn't mean that they're not interesting and that they're not worthy of study. And I think that one of the things that being an organizer has helped me to do is think about them in different contexts. They're often taken up as, how does Phyllis Wheatley fit into a kind of neoclassical, poetry tradition? But, I want to think about how she relates to other Black poets and how she founds a sort of African-American poetic tradition. And so that's my work. I'm very much focused on earlier periods, beyond poetry. Frederick Douglass was raised earlier, and I'm always wanting to read the Black abolitionists from the 19th century. And one of the things that I want to do in the future is write a book about an organizing history of the United States, especially amongst Black Americans. I love Frederick Douglass to death, but
so what does the 4th of July mean to the Negro?
Right.
To come and break that down for us. I always listen to that on July 4th. What does the 4th of July mean to the Negro?
You may well appreciate this. One of the spaces that I think is underwritten about is our national convention movement. And the 19th century movement is very overlooked. Right?
And Dr.
Real.
Dr. Kelly Harris writes and talks extensively about that. He's actually talked about that with our debaters in terms of just really educate. I didn't know anything about it until I talked to Dr. Harris. I knew nothing about it until I talked to our class, to talk to my students about 2 years ago. I know that we have 2 minutes left. So I know
JP, I put one more thing in there for you. I gotta get my 5 minutes.
One more big question. All right.
One more. I put another. The National Black Writers Convention that's held at Medgar Evers, and I know have you been? They do like every other year, but I can remember one year I was like sitting in front of Sonia Sanchez. It was like, so you walk in that room, it's an awesome, and Medgar Evers, and so make sure what you're doing that you attend that, and I'm sure you'll be inspired. And don't forget to, if you got time, to get down to 24 hours a piece, and we'll all be saying that is going on right now.
Absolutely.
All right.
And my last question for you: when you're doing the work, when you're reading, is there a hip hop artist, individual, or group that you listen to that inspires you to do the work that you do?
And before you answer, include just a wrap up of where we're going to be on Wednesday.
So I'll start with the Wednesday, so make sure we get it in. On Wednesday we're going to be at the Hain Building, the Express Newark. It's the second floor of that building, and it'll be at 6:00. We'll have Kehinde Andrews there to talk about his new book, Nobody Can Give You Freedom. Watch a little snippet of a documentary with the same title, and then have a conversation with him And I'm hoping, that will be, I know will be a really good and generative conversation. And so, yeah, please, if you're in the area, come through and and come up and pick up a book. There'll be books on site for sale that you can pick
Source
up.
Knowledge is doing the books.
Yeah, they're being provided by Source of Knowledge. I think that you'll enjoy the book. So yeah, definitely come through.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And thank you so much. This has been
He didn't answer the ritual question.
All right, what's that ritual question?
Yeah, and Andre 3000 is
the flute?
Person that's the flute now is another
flute
edition. Yeah,
okay.
I was so thrown off by it whenever it first was released, but listening to it more, I'm like, oh, this is really good. But I'm forever an Outkast fan, and yeah, so.
Well, that's a wonderful answer. I
This is
appreciate
Louisiana, all of hip hop. All right.
All right. Well, thank you so much, and it's a wonderful week. Thank all of our guests for coming on our show. Great first episode for Pastrami Over Politics with Rahaman Muhammad and Al Tariq McKinney. We appreciate having both of them. And amazing session with Principal Kafele. Amazing, right? And thank you. Welcome, JP, for you coming on. Thank you so much. And we have to have you on again, talking about some of the activism, some of the stuff that you're doing, and some of the ideas you have. Or probably want to put you with some other activists too, who are doing similar things, but from different cities. So that I do think that a lot of different activists who are doing different great work need to talk to each other.
Miles behind the longest.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds great.
And don't forget, Principal Kafele, since you enjoy it, you can listen to him and go back and binge 279 shows. And,
that's right. Tomorrow at 11 o'clock.
Yeah, you can listen to him and everything. So wish you success, JP, and please keep going. Don't wait for us to call you. You call us, okay?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
all right. And good night.
By way of announcement, very quickly, we got to be in the street tomorrow, 12 noon, 25 Kilpatrick Street, New Brunswick. Justice for Deborah Terrell. We're not letting that go. We're turning the volume up there. Just as we're having 24 hours of peace this weekend, I'll start talking soon and start pushing out the cities in our area that we're going to get to build in on the October 22nd National Day Against Police Brutality. Pay attention to that, JP. You may want to get down with some of that, okay?
All right.
So it's been another week. It's been another show. Been another good moment.
All right, good night.
And I'm surprised y'all didn't say his better half is from Louisiana. I'm surprised y'all had that conversation.
Oh, that's fair. That's fair. But until next week. Until next week.
We'll talk about that.
That's for sure.